Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our council meeting. I'd firstly like to acknowledge, on behalf of Council the Wadawurrung, traditional owners of this land, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and also to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in the Geelong community today. This meeting is being broadcast on the internet, and the recording of the meeting will be published on Council's website. Welcome everybody to our June council meeting. We're back at City Hall tonight, obviously, after holding our past couple of meetings in Highton and Port Arlington, and we're really pleased to be joined by a number of community members, albeit small, in line with COVID safe guidelines. Thank you to everybody who's come along tonight, and we look forward to hearing questions from the gallery very soon. Thanks also to everybody watching from live stream at home. If you're interested in attending a future meeting in person, you can register via our website at geelongaustralia.com.au/meetings. And a quick mention before we get going of the effort that everybody in our community has made during the latest lockdown. It was very difficult and very unfortunate to once again have had such a big financial impact, particularly on local businesses. But the willingness of Greater Geelong people to follow the directions really did help regional Victoria stay safe from COVID, and it's put us into a position where we are able to live relatively freely again. So thank you to everybody. Now we have another big agenda tonight, so let's begin the meeting. Councillors, I will be asking for strict adherence to speaking time limits again tonight, as you'll see on the board over there, and the buzzer and a signal from me if you go over time for too much. Do we have any apologies for this evening? I don't think we do. I think full house. Thank you. And are there any requests for leaves of absence from councillors tonight? No? Okay, thank you. Any declarations of conflict of interest in relation to tonight's agenda? We might have one. I have one listed here. Councillor Harwood, do you have one for the sports lighting? Yep. So that will be item 11. You'll have a conflict. Thank you. And if any conflicts arise for anybody else during the meeting, please make them known. Can I please have a mover and seconder to confirm the minutes of the council meeting held on the 25th of May 2021? Moved Councillor Sullivan, seconded Councillor Grisbeck. Thank you. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay, public question and submission time is the next item on the agenda, and this is specifically available for people to come in, ask questions and make submissions. It's not a forum for discussion, so it's a bit of a one-way street, really. And in accordance with our policy, we set aside 45 minutes for question time, providing for each person to address the council for 3 minutes. We do try and keep the answers from the officers to 3 minutes as well. And questions and submissions provided in writing prior to the meeting will be considered first, and after that everyone in the gallery will be given an opportunity to ask a question or make a submission if they wish and if time permits. So for those community members present who pre-submitted questions to council, you will have the opportunity to ask your question and have your response read out shortly, and the response to your pre-submitted questions will be sent to you tomorrow by email as well, as will be the case for those who are not present tonight. It's also important to note that each councillor has read the questions that are sent in. And for tonight's meeting, we've received the following questions from community members. We've had one from Sarah Roberts about the Coolabah Drive submission and free parking in the CBD. We've had questions from Esmia, from Julia Ryabova and Bill Votsaris. And may I have a show of hands of those in the gallery if I've just read your name out? 2, 3. Lovely, thank you. Okay, so we will go through the questions list first, as I have it here. Is Esmia with us tonight? No? Sarah Roberts? No? Julia Ryabova? Yes, Julia. Lovely. If you'd like to come forward, Julia. I'm sorry if I've mispronounced your surname, but please feel free to come up to the front. Welcome.
Yeah, good evening, councillors. I'll be quite short. My name is Julia and I'm here with my husband, Milton. Can everyone hear? Yep, that's better. We run a small business on Little Malab Street, and I'm pretty sure we can represent every other business owner on Little Malab Street. It's been quite challenging. As running any business. Now, one of the initiatives, council's initiatives that really helped us a lot was the free CBD parking. It's extremely important for our customers when they make a booking in our restaurant. Yeah, well, I'll say it's a restaurant. Not to worry about where and how they're going to find parking. Yep, generally not to worry about parking. So in this respect, I would like to ask the councillors if you understand how important the free CBD parking is for attracting people to central Geelong. Yep, and I also would like to ask your support in accounting for free CBD parking in the budget, next year's budget, and any other budgets afterwards, all the years after. Yep, that's it.
Lovely. Thank you, Julia.
Can I ask a question, please, Madam Mayor?
Oh, indeed, Councillor Howard.
Sorry, your business in Little Mallow Street?
Yes.
What business is that?
At the Mav's Greek Restaurant.
Sorry?
Mav's Greek Restaurant.
Is that that's open lunch and dinner every day?
Not every day. We open 5.5 days. So 4 days we open lunch and dinner, and 1 day we open just half day. Hopefully that's just temporarily. We're just waiting for the businesses to come back after the pandemic. And then we'll be able to open probably 6 or 7 days, full days.
So your business is busier of an evening or during the day?
Well, it's probably busier in the evenings, and weekends, as any restaurant. Yep. We also are quite busy lunches, not as busy as dinners, and the feedback that we're getting from our customers is parking problem. People can't find parking, or we sometimes get cancellations.
So what my point is, do your customers know that parking is free after 5:30 and free on weekends?
Yes, we do let them know. We do everything possible. We advertise that it's free after, at night time. So,
okay, thank you, Julia. So, I think you've made your point, Councillor Howard. Should we leave that one there? Thank you. We actually can't comment too much because we haven't actually voted on the budget yet, Julia. But thank you for coming in. Would anyone else like to make a comment? Would our City Planning and Economy Director like to make a comment?
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks for the question, Julia. Much appreciated. And certainly the City, and I'm sure councillors are also very aware of the importance of accessibility of parking in central Geelong, for the community, but also are very aware of implications around parking fees and the influence that can have on accessibility. And certainly, as the Mayor just indicated, Council, of course, tonight is considering the draft budget for 2021 through to 2025 this evening, which includes a second-hour free parking initiative that will be implemented on the 5th of July, if supported by Council tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Gareth, and thank you, Julia.
Very much.
Thank you for coming in. Okay, next question I have listed is Bill Votsaris. Bill, Bill?
Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity to be able to... I don't actually have a question. I just want to make a couple of factual statements about parking.
Madam Mayor, it's question time. It's not a statement time.
Questions or submissions, Councillor Howard? They're allowed to make a submission.
So some of them are quite obvious, and I would assume that for everyone that's going to vote today, everything I say here should be all the facts that you're already aware of. So at the moment, we know all the corporates are not in Geelong. The big corporations, including government, are not working from their offices. They're all working from home, so therefore that has an impact on all businesses in central Geelong. We also know that going forward that the marketing activities didn't get up on the last council vote, so therefore in the next year, if we accept the facts put down by council, there'll be something like $85 million less business activity in central Geelong, because that's the impact, we've been told, of the marketing levy that it had on people, consumers spending money in Geelong. So one would assume that next year, without that, there'll be a lot less activity in central Geelong. The cost of parking on street parking is $3 per hour. Cost for overstay is $84. The cost in the civic car park is $3.10 per hour, and for overstay inside the civic car park is $84. Cost for parking in Market Square for the first 2 hours is $1 per hour, and if you overstay, the cost is $2 per hour. Task force appointed by the council to look at and comment on the parking unanimously said we need free parking. Also would like to table the strategy paper for Wyndham Council on car parking, and I think our council should really seriously look at what Wyndham is doing about parking. In addition to that, I want to bring to the council's attention that if you doubt that cost of parking has an impact on how people conduct their consumer activities, then I would like to also table a document that is signed by council executives and Woolworths for the Port Harlington supermarket development. So when that happened, normally you would assume that a development like a supermarket would provide its own car parking on the basement or whatever. In this case, the parking, Woolworths didn't have to provide any parking. However, it did a deal with the City of Greater Geelong where the public parking in the street becomes available, and the City of Greater Geelong will not impose or introduce, and it will remain free whilst the supermarket is in operational in its entirety. So there's proof that parking is important for how consumers
Okay.
behave. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Your time's up. Thank you for coming in
just leave
and
those
making
there.
your points.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Councillor Murray.
Look, I've got a question for Bill. Bill, is it a fact that the restaurants on the Little Mallet Street strip there, their turnover is up about 30% on pre-COVID figures?
So we do have access to some numbers from some places, not all, and there is some evidence that some businesses are now outperforming their numbers pre-COVID of last year.
It's good news.
Yes.
And you mentioned the Geelong CBD task force as supporting free parking. Said that they supported free parking. They actually supported the free 30-minute trial, but then supported paid parking after that. Are you aware of that?
I was in the task force, and I can tell you what we supported quite unanimously is to have free parking, and that's the only way it's going to function properly, because at the moment the community is totally confused about what is the parking situation in central Geelong, and if you're going to offer something that's a benefit, then please market it and make sure the community is aware of it.
Okay, look, I think we can probably agree that there's a diversity of views about parking. Thank you, Bill. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
And hopefully after tonight's budget discussion, there will be more clarity about parking according to whichever way the council decides to vote. Now, is there anybody else in the gallery who would like to come forward? I will pick the people I know first. Jennifer Banto, may I invite you to come forward? Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Mayor Asher and councillors. I'm here to speak about agenda item section 3, notice of motions. As I'm a committee person with the Marshall Bluestone Cottage Community Group, which now has over 770 supporters. On behalf of the group, we want to thank Councillor Peter Murray for the notice of motion at this evening's agenda. The group strongly supports the motion in principle. Thank you very much, and thank you to the ward councillors who have also expressed support. This is such a great opportunity to accept this heritage place as a gift. It's it's an unbelievable chance, and I'm glad we're going to grasp that chance. But it needn't be a drawn-out process. A South Australian firm called Mammoth Movers can brace the structure, lift it and move it without dismantling it, without the need for dismantling, without the need for storage. So it can be restored and used almost straight away on an appropriate site. So we'd like to suggest that some words are changed in the motion so that its intention is clearer. We believe there are some contradictions in it, that there's an implication it might be for private residents, which we think is contradictory to the other part of the motion, which talks about community and public use. So could Council please consider simplifying the words to make the intention boldly clear? Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Would anybody like to take that question, or we'll wait until the appropriate time? Happy to wait.
Madam Mayor, I did speak to Jennifer just before our meeting started, so she had a quick look at the notice of motion.
Yep.
But be further discussed later on, Jennifer.
Yes. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank
you for coming in. I think that's Tom O'Connor over there too. Would you like to come up, Tom?
Mayor, evening councillors, staff. My item tonight's item 7, the clever and creative 30-year vision. As a template for tomorrow. I've got to compliment the authors. You know, it's a brave view. It's a brave view. Try and look 30 years ahead with any degree of accuracy. But notwithstanding, post-COVID will be not only the challenge, but it'll also be I guess the success of it is going to be the measure of how we adjust, how we adapt, and how we commit. And I've written here the challenge. The challenge is going to be for us all, councillors, community, staff, a lot. The challenge is going to be for us all to act in unison. You know, the investors, the operators, the customers, and the community. But I do want to commend. I won't say any more other than it's a very positive note for tomorrow, and whoever put it together, I guess the team would have put it together, they're to be commended. So well done, all the best, and let's all work together. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you for making the time to come in and pass on some positive feedback. There was another show of hands up the back there. Thank you. I don't recognise the face behind the mask, so please come on up, and if you could introduce yourself, that would be terrific.
Thank you, councillors. My name's Cam O'Keefe. I operate a small business in Little Malop Street also. My question tonight was regarding the marketing levy, but since there's so much talk on parking, I'll just add in a quick statement of my own as well. The question was to council, the marketing levy from last year during the COVID closures for many of these small businesses, will that be returned to businesses, refunded? And in regards to parking, there was hundreds of signatures that I collected roughly about this time last year from many local businesses in and around not just Little Mallet but central CBD in regards to free parking, and the overwhelming response was the positive feedback we received from when council were doing their trial, when we were doing our trials and promoting free parking in the CBD. So just on the levy though, is there plans for it to be returned to businesses from last year during the COVID closure?
Councillor Murray, he looks like he wants to answer this one.
Oh, I was going to indicate Gareth. Is Gareth here?
Yeah.
Yeah. Gareth might be able to answer that.
Thank you, Gareth.
Thank you, Cam. Appreciate the question on the refund. Actually, on the 28th of April 2020, the council at that time, actually, as part of its broader COVID support package, valued at $16.9 million, actually provided a quarter of the year refund at that time, valued at around $284,000 that was refunded. So, but there's no other additional refund decisions been made by the council regarding the levy.
Thank you, Gareth. Cam answers your question. Great.
And
thank you.
I've got copies of those signatures if you still need to see them. But I think I think they were received by council, maybe by Mr. Contel, I think.
Councillor Contel.
Thanks, Cameron. Yes, that petition that you issued us late last year, one being about commercial rates, one being about the levy and the free parking, was tabled here in the public chamber at the time, and council certainly has that. So thank you very much for putting that forward.
Thank you, Cameron. Anybody else in the chamber who would like to come up and make a submission or ask a question? No. Okay, thank you to those who have done so. That's the end of the questions and submissions time, and as I said before, the answers will be emailed to everybody who submitted a question. Now we're on to petitions. I believe we have a couple of petitions to be tabled. Councillor Mansfield? No? Parking, Maple Crescent, Bell Park? Mason has one. Thanks, Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. I've got a petition from the Bowen Heads Association. They're seeking recognition of the Bowen Heads Village Park as a significant landscape for our community. The association is asking COG to include an action for planning overlay and building design principles in the new Bowen Heads Village Park master plan. I have a copy.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Jake will take that. He's behind you. Thank you. No other petitions for tonight? Okay, we'll move into the reports section. Section B, and the first item for the agenda is the Youth Council second report, and I welcome our Junior Mayor, Elliot Nicholas. Elliot's going to take my chair, so I will vacate for a moment. Thanks, Elliot, and welcome.
Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge the Wathaurong people, the traditional owners of this land, and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging, as well as acknowledging all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people present this evening. Good evening, Mayor Stephanie Asher, Greater Geelong councillors and directors, as well as the Youth Council and community members here tonight. The Youth Council would also like to acknowledge and thank the Council for their support and mentoring over the last few months. Tonight, I will outline the progress and achievements of Youth Council since the previous report was presented to Council on the 23rd of March and provide Council with our input and advice on matters we believe are important to young people in our community. The March and April meetings contained presentations that focused on how places across Geelong could be more youth-friendly. The Youth Council feels very positive about having the opportunity to have a voice on these matters. Through further discussion and reflection, Youth Council believe that there is a considerable need for young people to access their own spaces, increasing the availability of fort-like youth-dedicated spaces in the Geelong region, with a priority focus on central Geelong, Cardinia and the Bellarine, has become a key topic of interest for the Youth Council. To provide well-informed input to the Council and gain first-hand experience of the benefit and importance of these spaces, Youth Council members set out to experience the spaces available to youth across Geelong and engaged with the young people at Armstrong Creek East Community Hub, the Youth Drop-In and the Fort, which was an actual youth-dedicated space. The most significant learning and feedback from young people was how important these spaces are to them, particularly the fort, and just how much of an effect they have on the lives of the users. Youth Council members enjoyed engaging with the community and believe utilising the drop-ins in the fort was a great way to gather feedback, opinions and information from the young people they represent. As Geelong recovers from COVID-19, increasing opportunities for social connection is hugely important, especially for young people, as they have been shown to be highly vulnerable to the effects of loneliness, social isolation and poor mental health outcomes. It is important to highlight that to increase youth-dedicated spaces would enable Youth Council to achieve all 4 of its 2021 priority areas of health and wellbeing, diversity and inclusion, access to healthy and safe environments, and opportunities for growth and learning, and complements the work of previous years' Youth Councils. The input we would like to provide to the Council today is Youth Council support the undertaking of youth facility feasibility and business case to establish community hubs with dedicated youth space as identified in the Social Infrastructure Plan. Thank you for listening. Good night.
Excellent work. Thank you very much, Elliot. Okay, this item will be moved by Councillor Mansfield and seconded by Councillor Mason. Thank you, Councillor Mansfield.
And thank you so much for another fantastic update from about the work that the Youth Council is doing. In particular, the focus in this report is about dedicated youth spaces. One thing that we've heard a lot from young people in our community is that there really aren't enough youth-friendly facilities. We do have some excellent facilities like the Fort in the northern suburbs, but we don't have a lot of other spaces that young people can go to where they can mix with each other, participate in a range of activities that aren't community sports, and also a place for them to go where they feel safe and have access to supportive adults who are able to guide them or provide them with connections to other services or other people where they can access further support if they need it. So that's something I've certainly heard over a significant period of time. During my time on council, it was a strong message throughout last year, particularly with the impacts of COVID. For a lot of young people, home isn't a safe space anyway, and I think COVID made that a lot worse for some young people. So I think the need for these dedicated youth spaces really became much more obvious, and we've certainly been hearing that message loud and clear. So I really look forward to working with the Youth Council on how we can identify potential youth dedicated spaces across the municipality, and we've also heard that in particular in central Geelong there is a need for some sort of youth facility given its proximity to public transport and other facilities. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where we can get to for the young people of Geelong on this issue, and I really thank the Youth Council for providing this advice, because it's certainly the message we've heard more broadly from young people. So you're doing a great job representing the young people of Geelong. Thank you.
Well said, Councillor Mansfield. Thank you. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Asher, and I fully endorse what Councillor Mansfield has said, and do thank the Junior Mayor, Elliot Nicholas, for his excellent presentation. And I do applaud the second report that's been produced by the Junior Council under the constraints of COVID, and it does show the initiative and resilience of our youth councillors. I do note their broad-ranging social awareness of climate change action, interestingly, are safe, supervised spaces for youth, as has just been discussed, which do address diversity, inclusion, loneliness, etc. And the recommendations they've presented support major issues and projects identified in our social infrastructure plan. So we welcome their advice and their support for the city to conduct a youth facility feasibility and business case, as Elliot just expressed, to establish community hubs with dedicated youth spaces as identified in the social infrastructure plan. And I note also that the Youth Council are interested in co-design. That's a very popular word, becoming popular, and it's extremely important to note that they're interested in participating in the design of their facilities. So I look forward to further mentoring sessions as well with our Bellarine councillors, Mackenzie Sinclair, the Junior Deputy Mayor, Maria Glass and Emma Pape. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Any other councillors wish to comment on the Youth Council report? Okay, go back to Councillor Mansfield to close.
Nothing further.
Okay, great. I think it's all been said, so well said. Thank you to you both. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 2 has two parts to it. It's the declaration of the 2021 to 22 rates, adoption of our community plan 2021 to 25, and action plan 2021 to 22, and the 21 to 22 to 2024-25 budget. So we have the first recommendation to be moved by Councillor Grisbeck and seconded by Councillor Sullivan. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, I have an amendment to both of these recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. We'll deal with them one at a time. So this is the first one, and then we'll do the second one. Okay. You have a seconder for your recommendation. Councillor Mansfield, thank you.
In fact, Madam Mayor, the amendments in fact relate to the free parking being part of the budget and community plan. So I'll speak on both now, if that's convenient.
No, you need to only speak to this particular one. You have to try and keep it just to the community plan recommendation and speak to that particular amendment. So you can do it, put some context around it.
Well, that makes it a little bit difficult. I mean, the annual plan includes free parking, so I'll speak on my amendment in relation to the free parking. And look, I've been upfront with my thoughts on free parking from the very first time it was raised by this council. I disagree with the notion that free parking is advantageous to the CBD. There's been no evidence that even goes close to supporting free parking. In fact, all available evidence is in fact to the contrary. It's my belief that every item in this budget tonight is supported by either officers' comments or officers' reports, every item, bar one, and that is free parking, and which the officers' report that was tabled in this chamber in March of this year is not in favour of free parking. In my opinion, it should not be anywhere near the budget, the free parking issue. And I made those comments back months ago, and I'll say them again, that this matter, my belief, has slipped in the back door. It is such a divisive topic and needs to stand on its own and be debated on its own in chamber, not form part of the budget. There has been several resolutions on parking in central Geelong since 2006. There was December 2006, December 2013, 2014, 2016, 2017, 2019 and twice in 2020, all debated and resolved as standalone resolutions in the chamber. None of them introduced through the budget, and that's my opposition. I've got to say I've been a little surprised by the pressure I felt from within the walls since I indicated my intentions with this amendment. It's like concede defeat and move on. Well, no. All I am doing is being consistent. I don't support free parking. It has been debated numerous times. It's formed part of the Council's COVID response last time. The report that came to this chamber in March about the potential benefits and implications of the free 2 hours noted that paid parking is all about turnover, and turnover is what the CBD retail wants. This report found that Central Geelong employees are the main beneficiaries of free parking, which reduces the availability for shoppers and visitors and limiting potential benefits for business. Even Infrastructure Victoria noted that local governments are not only providing too much free on-street parking, but many are not charging enough. And as I noted before, even our very own Geelong CBD task force, they supported the 30-minute free parking trial, but then supported paid parking thereafter. So I'm simply asking, where is the evidence to support this over $8 million hit to council? There isn't any, and it shouldn't form part of this budget. Simples.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Mansfield.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. Look, I'll address the issue around the free parking being in the council plan. As Councillor Murray has said, we've debated this a number of times, and we've been over the key points at length at different times. Most recently, we did have a report clearly identifying why free parking initiatives don't, or that they deliver no tangible or intangible benefits. And look, I'm pretty agnostic about free parking. In some places at some times, maybe it's the right approach. I think what we need to be doing is managing parking to ensure that we have the best availability for the people who need to be using the parking, and that requires a bit more of a nuanced approach. My concern is making free parking a strategic priority in the council plan and budget for 4 years. That's potentially undermining this more nuanced approach that we're hoping to take. We do have a parking strategy imminently due before council, and I think it'd be great to see what comes out of that rather than committing ourselves to 4 years of free parking in our council plan. Just like for a whole range of other imminent plans, we haven't committed ourselves in the council plan we haven't preempted the outcomes of those. For example, our climate change response plan, we're expecting a whole lot of targets in that one in our council plan, a whole lot of targets to come within that climate change response plan, and we haven't preempted them and included them in our council plan. Similarly, we don't know after we receive the parking strategy whether blanket 2 hour or blanket second hour free parking is something that we will find the best mix for business and for other users of the CBD in the long run. So we know parking availability is the biggest concern for business. We heard that tonight from businesses. People can't find parking. It's not necessarily the cost they can't find parking where they want it. It's not necessarily the cost that's the issue. So I just think maybe having this as a strategic priority isn't quite the right approach. But in terms of the evidence for and against free parking, we've had that discussion many times, so I'll leave that one for now.
Thank you, Councillor Mansfield. Do we have other comments on this amendment? Councillor Contell.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I wasn't going to speak to this item, and I'm not going to debate the merits and benefits or other of free parking. I may do that throughout the course of the night, and it may be throughout the budget, but I absolutely take issue with Councillor Murray's statement that this item that's in the council plan and in the council budget was somehow, in his words, slipped in the back door. Now, I don't know how many council budget meetings Councillor Murray here attended, but I certainly by and large attended just about every one of them. And the council parking was featured prominently in just about every session that we had. We debated it at length, in fact, probably more so than any other item. So it's been entrenched in this plan and the budget for now months. We've had a whole manner of information brought to our attention and plenty of opportunity to talk about it. So it almost goes to the point of bringing this council into disrepute, making those comments, and I won't be part of it because I was part of a council collective that debated this draft budget since almost December last year, right? Nearly 7 months of debating a budget. And to say that this has been slipped in the back door is absolutely inaccurate. And the only other thing I'd suggest is that councillors around this table need to decide what way they want to address these matters. Last council budget, in the last council, everyone suggested it needed to be in the budget and it was going to get moved as its own report. Now that it's in the budget, now it has to get moved as its own report. People need to make up their mind where they want to see this. I will still talk about the benefits and other of parking later, but I just need you to bring that to real clarity and need the public to absolutely know that this was by no means a last-minute item. We've been talking about this for nearly 7 months.
Thank you, Councillor Contell. Any other comments? Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. I hear what Councillor Contell has said, and it's true that we've debated it over a long period. Nevertheless, I felt some discomfort when I looked at the council plan and saw that the second hour free parking zones in central Geelong are expressed as part of a 4-year priority. Now, the debating and the discussions that we've had, it was my understanding that an essential element was certainly to cover the COVID recovery response. And another essential element was that there would be some provision in the budget, perhaps, in the case of a positive result from a review. And we have agreed also, through our discussions and our debates, that it's still subject to review as we develop a parking strategy, as we develop the revitalisation of central Geelong, and that really our budget provision needs to be subject to consistency in our overall city vision. So whether or not we debate about free parking, the rights and the wrongs of it, there are nuances in this, and it really did make me feel uncomfortable seeing on page 8 of the annual action plan, section 3.5.2, 4-year priority implementation of second hour free parking, when the whole thing's supposed to be subject to review. And I could go on more about my position about free parking not assisting traders. It doesn't assist the public. It creates congestion and is a populist gesture which doesn't bear scrutiny. It really, as has been mentioned on many previous occasions, we need to be more agile, flexible, and you can adjust parking prices according to supply and demand. And that has a much better and more positive assistance, not only to the public, but to the traders. So in a sense, we're all trying to do the best for everyone. We just see it from different angles. And I'm really disappointed that we have to discuss it in these terms at this time. But I do see that 4-year priority as a slight misunderstanding of our discussions. Thank you.
Councillor Mason. Any other comments on this one? We'll go back to Councillor Murray to close. I don't need to close for an amendment. Okay, we'll just put this one to the vote.
I don't think there's a reply
That's-
on amendment.
Pardon? No, okay, great. We just close. So we'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour of the amendment as put forward? Those against? The amendment's not carried. So now we'll go to the original recommendation, moved by Councillor Grisbeck and seconded Councillor Sullivan. Councillor Grisbeck.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is what an honour to speak on this community plan. I have got my notes that the budget and plan were together, similar to Councillor Murray. I think I will just try and talk about the plan first. So, firstly, this plan is hours and hours of many people's input to get to this point. And I feel this is sort of like, hesitant to say, a Bible of where we're going to see our 4-year term for council. This is designed to outline the key strategic priorities and to guide us on how we'll deliver on these priorities. This plan brings together all of our visions, our wellbeings, our policies, our strategies, and we have a plan that brings in, for the first time, our health and wellbeing plan to improve the mental health, wellbeing and social connection, especially after and during COVID. As we know, we go in and out of lockdown. We need to ensure that people are still feeling connected to each other. And mental health conditions also overlap with chronic diseases, alcohol abuse and drug abuse, and therefore that's why this is a priority in this plan. I like all the pillars of the plan, but my favourite one in here is actually about the strong local economy. Some of the 4-year priorities are to attract private and public investment, leverage the competitive strengths and the attractiveness of our region. We should be promoting Geelong as the trial location for innovation and new technologies. I'd also like to thank the team that has put this together. I think, you know, as has been said earlier, there has been months and months and months of work on this particular document. This is a culmination of everything that we have said, which the community has said has been out to consultation. So I wanted to thank the officers for their hard work in pulling this together, and I think this is really a document that we can hold faithful to over the next 4 years of our term. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck. Deputy Mayor Sullivan.
I reserve my right, Madam Mayor. Please.
Okay. Any other comments from councillors? Councillor Aitken.
Thank you very much, Mayor Asher. Look, just to give a bit more background information about this particular document, our community plan, we actually started it just after November when we first elected. And for this council group, excluding Councillor Maloney, has been in office for now close to 4 years. And our first plan we actually inherited from the administrators. But this document actually is our document as the elected councillors. And we've worked extremely hard with the officers with this document. And in fact, what's being brought back tonight is also after we've completed our formal community consultation about this particular document. What it outlines is quite significant. This actually sets the strategic framework for the council for the next 4 years. I'm really pleased tonight that we're actually presenting this document as well too with it. And this document is actually our action plan. And what our action plan has, we take our 4 strategic direction areas that we've identified, which Councillor Grisbeck has already touched upon, and we tell the community what we're going to be doing over the next 4 years. And in fact, it's not just one particular item. In fact, in our action plan, under direction number 1, we're identifying 27 commitments we're making to the community over the next 4 years. And some of those are really important for us as councillors and reflect our priorities and our commitments as council group. We've all contributed to them. There's some in there that I couldn't get up, but there's a lot in there that I could get up, and I support that approach. If you move to our strategic direction number 2, which is about sustainable growth and environment, this is a fantastic one because the Sustainability Framework Plan runs straight through this particular action plan. There's 26 commitments that Council is actually making under this strategic direction plan. And then if you go to stronger local economy, we make 16 action plans that we're committing to after tonight as a council group. And then if you go to the final one, which is about being a high-performing council and organisation, what we are talking about is that we want to be a council that doesn't just get focused on single-based issues. We actually understand our responsibility to reflect the wider community and the diversity of this community that we represent. And we've got 16 action areas associated in that as well too. So I am extremely proud of the work that we've done since November last year as a council group to debate all the issues that we have associated with our responsibility of the plan. And what we're presenting tonight, the community can be assured as well too. We have got quite a detailed and quite succinct manner in which we're going to fulfil our responsibilities over the next 4 years. I'm very proud of what this council group has actually come to its conclusion on. Mayor Asher.
Thank you, Councillor Aitken. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Asher, and thank you also most recently, Councillor Aitken. I fully agree with what you've just said and I won't repeat it all, but other than I do applaud also the work done by officers and councillors. It has been a long haul. It's been really hard work and it really is a visionary document and I'm really proud of it too. And as Councillor Aitken said, we've had to compromise on some issues here and there, and it's not a perfect document, but it certainly is the best we can do, and it really does, as I said, it's a visionary document. It does address the major issues of our time. It encompasses climate change and its ramifications. It addresses social needs, health and wellbeing priorities, and it's in a holistically sustainable approach, supporting the UN Sustainable Development Goals and our sustainability framework, and it does continue to support our community's 30-year vision, clever, creative vision. So, well done, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Mansfield.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. Look, I agree. I think this is overall a really strong plan, and I'd like to thank my fellow councillors and also the officers for all the time and effort that was put into compiling this plan. As has been pointed out, it is a document of compromise. We didn't all get exactly what our individual strategic visions were for the next 4 years in this plan. But the one thing I would point out is that this is a kind of overarching document, but it is supported by a whole range of other more specific strategies and plans, and they're referenced throughout the council plan. So if there's something that feels like maybe it's missing in the council plan, have a look at those reference documents because you'll probably find what you're looking for in one of those. I know that we got a lot of feedback from the community about issues such as our commitment to climate action. There will be a series of other, although we did strengthen some of the strategies and actions within the council plan. There will also be a range of supporting documents that will feed into that council plan to address some of those concerns that were raised in the community. The other areas are around social inequity. That's something that did come up in some of the listening posts that we attended. Again, there are some other supporting strategies like our social infrastructure plan, our social housing strategy that will go delve deeper into those specific areas, and within them there'll be actions and targets. So I think this plan is a really good broad reflection of the work that council does, but there's a whole raft of other work and other commitments that we've made that extend well beyond what is written in the council plan itself.
Councillor Mansfield. Other comments on the community plan? I'm going to close. I'll just make a quick comment and echo the thanks to the team, particularly the strategy team and the efforts of Cam Manane in particular for taking on board our nitpicks and edits right up to the last minute. I think it is a really, really successful balance of a lot of competing priorities and a lot of different strategic priorities specifically, but also the Health and Wellbeing Plan incorporation is no mean feat to blend that so seamlessly. So well done to the team. Greatly appreciated for all your work. Deputy Mayor Sullivan to speak now, not close.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to all my councillors who have spoken before me on this object, on this item and the recommendation before us. I believe what we have before us is an absolutely fantastic community plan. I recall late last year and early this year speaking at workshops, engaging the community. This is very much a plan that has the essence of the community at it and permeates the entire document. But my other councillors have spoken to it at length and brilliantly as well. So I just want to just focus on the 4 topics, the 4 pillars of what this is built on, because it really does identify, the essence of this. To have a healthy, caring, and inclusive community. COVID has shown us that if we don't have health and well-being at the very essence of our community, we don't have one. That is the highest importance of this council, is looking after the health and well-being of our community. The sustainable growth and environment. We are a growing community. We have one of the highest growth rates in population in Victoria. But we have to make sure that with that comes responsibility. Responsibility that we have to be sustainable, that we have to be well planned, and including the environment in that as well. One of the benefits of COVID was that people started really cherishing their time outdoors. They could go into the environment, they could check out their local parks. We have over 300 areas of open space, parkland, recreations, reserves in our municipalities. We have to look after them of the highest importance. To have a strong local economy, again, COVID recovery, this is something that's still ongoing and that we'll see in our budget as well. But to be a high-performing council and organisation. This council wants to be the best that it can be. The organisation wants to be the best it can be. And we have a council that is willing to invest in the organisation as well. Because only when we have that combination do we best deliver for the community, which are the real stakeholders of this organisation. There are so many objects and items in this plan. It's a fantastic overarching document to guide this council. And I encourage all at home and all members of our community to really have a look through it, because this is a document which shapes our city and it shapes the lives of all of us within it. So with that, I'm fully supportive, Madam Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Sullivan, back to Councillor Grisbeck to close.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's working. Thank you, everybody, for your comments on this plan. And just as Councillor Sullivan was speaking, as he said, this document has been through a deliberative engagement process with the community, and that's as that was set out in the Local Government Act 2020, that this is what the process needs to be from that point on, as set by the state government. Some of the things we heard during the deliberative engagement on a raft of topics were about safety, about recycling, about waste management, about the environment, infrastructure, the support, for communities regarding COVID, road maintenance, street maintenance, all of the above, and that I wouldn't expect anything less from our wonderful residents that keep us to account. So just a final thank you to the team for their really hard work on this process. This obviously has been done in conjunction with all of the other documents that are up for debate tonight, Madam Mayor, and it has been a plethora of work done by the team, and the action plan is what you will hold Council to account for. The priorities and the actions that come out of that is what I would expect people to be asking me about at the next session where we're out in the local community, and I'm glad that I will have this document and the action plan to refer back to, because there's so much that Council is doing. It's fantastic. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck. Well said. So we'll put the community plan item to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Quite a momentous moment for us all. Okay. Recommendation 2 to be moved by Councillor Aitken and seconded Councillor Sullivan, and I think Councillor Murray has an amendment.
Just withdraw that amendment.
To withdraw the amendment?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll go on to recommendation 2, as moved by Councillor Aitken and seconded by Deputy Mayor Sullivan. Councillor Aitken.
Thank you very much, Mayor Asher. It's my great pleasure as the Chair of the Finance Portfolio of the City of Greater Geelong to bring our final 21-22 budget back to the Council. We bring the budget back after going through our public consultation process that we had. We actually had a total of 126 submissions during that process, of which 6 of those related to our community plan, and 120 of them actually related towards our budget. our budget also has actually had some minor modifications relating towards revenue and expenditure items that have actually come forward over the last 2 months with the City of Greater Geelong. And of course, we've framed this budget within the COVID environment that makes it extremely difficult for any person that's associated with finance to correctly identify income and correctly identify expenditure when you don't know what restrictions are actually going to be in place and you don't know how long those restrictions are going to be in place. But what I'm really proud about is that budgets aren't just about money. Budgets actually are about your values and your principles and your priorities. And I'm really proud that this budget actually reflects that of this particular council, because we have identified $209 million worth of priorities in our community. We've actually said we're going to create the largest ever capital investment program that's been undertaken in the City of Greater Geelong's history with the decision we're making tonight. We've also shown our values and about listening to our community. I'm really pleased that a large portion of the concentration of the community debate was actually about our rating system, and it's actually educated the officers and ourselves to actually say our community is now mature enough to actually start talking about our rating system that we have in the City of Greater Geelong, and we certainly have committed that we will now undertake a process of quite deliberate engagement with our community to actually look at our rating systems. So we will be reviewing our differential rating system. We will be reviewing our definitions that we use. And importantly, we'll be looking at the income mix associated with our rating. We are adopting a rating strategy tonight with our decision, but we have responded to those issues that have been raised by, in particular, our business and commercial community that exists in the CBD of Geelong, and our commercial community that has made strong representation from us from the Packing Street traders and Geelong West area as well too. So I'm pleased that we're responding to that. What was really good about the community engagement process on this budget, we actually received quite a good level of complimentary feedback, where a large number of people are actually supporting the initiatives that Council has proposed in its budget, in particular the record investment that we are undertaking in capital development. And we also had an opportunity as a council group to actually look for the next 4 years about what projects we are going to undertake. And in fact, I didn't do it last time, but if you look at this budget, it really is a pool splash budget, because we're actually, after the decision about the Northern Aquatic and Community Hub, which is an absolutely fantastic initiative of $61 million investment into our community of the Northern Suburbs, tonight we're actually also committing to increase our expenditure towards the Northern Ballerine Pool, which doesn't exist at the present time, but we are committing a total of $15.5 million towards that pool splash. And then, guess what? Newcombe's not missing out as well too, because Leisure Link, the original proposal was spend $6 million, and we've now finished some quantitative analysis work in the last few weeks that we're increasing that by another $600,000 to be a total of $6.6 million. So this budget actually is showing that we are a council that actually prioritises aquatic facilities, and we are committed to understanding the importance that water on land in terms of recreational and other learning capacity that it has is a major priority focus over the council of the next 4 years. So I didn't really see that last time, but I certainly have when I've read through the budget documents being presented before us tonight. And we have been quite successful in the last few weeks with obtaining new funding support from the state government and from the federal government with funding grants, and in particular the Northern Aquatic and Community Hub. This budget reflects the amount of work that we have put in as councillors. It reflects the amount of work that the officers have put in for this budget, and it reflects our commitment to listen to our community and make modifications where we see they are acceptable. And so I commend the budget to everybody tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Aitken. Perfectly timed. Deputy Mayor Sullivan.
Madam Mayor, how do you follow Councillor Aitken in delivering a budget speech and with our excellent Chair of Finance there? It's a bit of a hospital pass, but I'll do my best. I fully endorse the words of Councillor Councillor Aiken there. He's done a fantastic job as our Chair of Finance during this budget period, and I commend all the good work he's put in. But it's quite right, a record $209 million capital investment, one of the highest investments we've made in capital infrastructure across the city of Greater Geelong. It's fantastic. But this is a 4-year budget. This is a budget that is developed in tandem with our long-term strategic goals. This is a council which cares about our finances, and not just where we are now, but where we are down the track. You know, the Northern Aquatic Community Hub, and a further $21.84 million, massive. But even our fees, freezing so many of the fees that the council has in here, we've frozen sport, recreation, cultural fees, access to our facilities, community halls, sporting services, all that. So we're still maintaining that we don't want to add any more pressure on our community members when using the services that we provide. You know, the lowest recorded rate rise in Greater Geelong's history. That's incredible to be able to deliver that in part of everything else that's going on in this budget as well. We understand the importance of how it is to encourage business, to encourage commerce. You know, we still have COVID-19 support packages in progress. We're still delivering that support if people wish to access it. We have targeted support for businesses. Our commercial rates are still at zero. We haven't put a rate rise on top of that. And we've removed the Central Geelong marketing levy, making it easier for people to do business in Central Geelong. And whilst we are in a deficit area, this is a balanced budget, and we will be returned to surplus over 4 years, or even less, 3 years. So to have a budget which has record investment, a record lowest rate rise, and have a plan to return to surplus, it's all fantastic. And some of my favourite budget items in here are incredible: a new library in Drysdale, an increase to the community infrastructure grants program, sporting lights, 7 different reserves, the pool, the Northern Ballerina Aquatic Centre, an absolute favourite. To get the go-ahead for that, it's incredible. Or LED street lighting changeover, saving thousands of tonnes of carbon emissions in our community. Our shared trails, more than $1 million, nearly $2 million invested in that. We have money for St Leonard's, we have money for the Dell wave attenuator, public Wi-Fi, digital modern organisation programs, so investing in the organisation we have here. We have money for soccer, we have money for arts, we have money for reserves, we have money for town squares, bike tracks, cricket clubs, skate parks, community hubs, halls. This budget delivers in every capacity. And I'd like to thank all the councillors for all their fantastic work. It's not easy working into budget season, a lot of late nights. I'd like to thank our Chair of Finance, Councillor Anthony Aiken, and I'd like to thank our Mayor Asher. Can't wait to see this play out in the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Sullivan. Also very well timed. Okay, other comments? Councillor Murray?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I too wish to thank the team. The process has been long, very comprehensive, so their commitment has been outstanding. So sincere congratulations to the team on this. Some items that I wish to concentrate on, and out of the Brownbull ward, I'm very excited about the Landy field refurbishment and Pavilion upgrade. This centre has been severely lacking of any love for a number of years, and it's exciting to bring Landy field up to the standard that all participants can be very proud of in a few years to come. So $6 million over 3 years, so it's very exciting for Landy field. The Chilwell Library also $1 million over 2 years. They've been crying out to convert the library into perhaps a community hub or meeting room. So that is in planning at the moment, and so I know they're all very excited down around the Chilwell Library. The Cardinia Park Precinct, $100,000 for a master plan. I've said it many times, it'd be great if this master plan could sit alongside the Stage 5 development, and that work be done at the same time as the Stage 5 development. So as a city and as a footy club even, in fact, you could look at the, once it's completed, have a look at the whole precinct, and it'd be great if the whole precinct could be completed at once. And also the Thompson Pavilion upgrade, they've been very patient there. The state has contributed to this, and $600,000 from council will get that work completed. And also a master plan for the Newtown Football and Netball Club. Their change rooms are a desperate need of attention, especially with the female-friendly facilities that are required there. So look, there's some items I've just chosen out of the Brownbull ward, and I'll leave it for other councillors to continue. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Councillor Murray. Councillor Grisbeck.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You know, there are going to be questions tonight about why we're delivering a deficit budget, and I'm really pleased to say that it's a balanced budget. It's really important to see that the community... I remember having a conversation with some state and federal colleagues, and the view was, if you're not delivering a deficit budget, what are you not doing for your community during COVID? So I'm pleased that we are doing everything we can to turn this deficit around in 4 years, but right now it's right where it needs to be. We've shown, as the City of Greater Geelong, that we want to lead from the front, and from that perspective, I note that our, what was I going to say? Our rates are only going up 1.5, and it's the lowest that we've had, 1.5% ever, the lowest ever. Thank you, Councillor Aiken. The lowest rate rise on record, and it's below CPI. So that's a really important piece from the City of Greater Geelong to make sure that we are leading that charge. Some back down to our ward, I should say, one I share with Councillor Aiken. We're really pleased that the delivery of the Northern Aquatic and Community Hub will now be done, and that's a total of $61.6 million over 3 years. The Lara Early Years Library and Community Hub, that's a $19.1 million commitment over 3 years. Really excited about the Corio Football and Netball Cricket Club and netball facilities upgrade, and that's a total of just over $3.5 million investment there. The Anarchy Football and Netball Club upgrade, $2 million over the next 2 years, and we're really excited to be able to deliver their new social space. Morpaniel Park, the master plan, and you know, whilst it seems quite a small amount, you know, in the first year, we're getting $650,000 over 3 years to deliver that master plan. Small things, but they are big things. Lara Basketball Club, the scoping study, it's really important that we're looking at how we can help, what does the community need, and how we can help them getting some basketball courts in Lara for them to train and have a home. So I could go on for a long, long time, Madam Mayor, but I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck. Other councillors wishing to comment on the budget? Councillor Maloney, then Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. I just wanted to say a huge thank you to everyone who contributed to the community plan and budget. It's my first one, and I'm very pleased to see our commitment to sustainability and high-performing council, and I believe that our communities should expect nothing less from us. With respect to the discussion on the contentious issues that we've heard about from levies and parking, I want to thank all the councillors for their extensive discussion, innovative thinking, and their extended debate. I think that it's quite literally our job to bring thousands of differing and conflicting opinions and perspectives into these chambers, and negotiating that is really not it's really not an easy thing to do, and we'd probably look like we weren't doing our jobs if we didn't have these debates in public and if you didn't see them for transparency reasons. So emotions and debates aside, it's really crucial that we're strategic in our approach to developing our city so that it's livable now and also into the future. In developing this budget, we've actually landed on a risk appetite, a mutual risk appetite, which I'm excited about, and I hope that this is echoed within our council decisions, our whole organisational decisions going forward. That is super important from my perspective. I am really excited to see our commitment to renewing assets, which is incredibly important for preventative maintenance, as I found out as a homeowner trying to clean out my gutters on the weekend. It's a very important thing to keep up. So we need to make sure that we're renewing our assets. We also need to make sure that we're complying with advocacy, great leadership, and actions that we actually commit to tonight within the plan, within the budget, and our complementary investments in that budget, which will shape Geelong and hopefully for a sustainable and bright future. So thanks, everyone. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Maloney. Well said. Councillor Nelson, then Councillor Mason.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. this is certainly a momentous occasion for this council. As other councillors have said, the biggest infrastructure spend with the smallest rate rise. Yes, we're going to deficit, we've all said that, but we need to spend this money for our community. And I just wanted to thank officers for the last 7 or 8 months or so. It's been a long few months, and we'll start the budget process again in a few months again. So I thank you for your hard work. It's a testament to what you guys and girls do. It's such a hard job, and I do appreciate the support. So, but with that being said, I just wanted to reel off some of the things that are happening in Community Ward. We did really well out of this budget, so thank you to my fellow ward councillors for allowing us these things in our area. So that was the main thing for me is the Armstrong Creek Town Centre Library, $20 million project. So that'll get done over the next few years. Armstrong Creek Community Hub, sports pavilions, playgrounds, the Horseshoe Bend Road Neighbourhood Precinct Activity Centre. That'll get done over the next few years. There's been a lot of discussion about Horseshoe Bend Road and Burvilles Road, and we're upgrading that road. So it links in with Mount Dunedin to make access to and from Mount Dunedin to Armstrong Creek into the school area and to the new shopping area, safer for kids during school times and other times, and everybody else in the community that can get across Torquay Road safely. Sparrow Vale Wetlands, the Burvilles Road footpath, as I said, Queen's Park Golf Irrigation, and also nets down at Queen's Park to stop wayward driving range balls going on to Barrowell Road. Tim Hill Reserve will get an upgrade. That's in Wandana Heights. Totally underutilised piece of council infrastructure, so hopefully that'll get used a lot more by the local sporting groups. South Barwon Reserve, as councillors were there on the weekend, it's getting an upgrade for their cricket facility. Barrowell Road will also get a footpath upgrade. Highton is very, very short of footpaths, as is Grovedale, so it's good that we're getting some more footpaths. And Druin Park Works up in Wandana Heights. We're removing a house up there and making more playground space available for kids. And Birda Reserve is also getting playground works, and hopefully they'll get a footpath soon. Councillor Maloney and Harwood and I will be working on that. So hopefully that'll happen soon, but I'll leave it up to my other fellow councillors. But thank you very much again to my fellow councillors and staff for these great projects for Community Award. Thanks again.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Asher, and thank you, everybody, my fellow councillor colleagues, for your inputs. And I'd just like to emphasise my gratitude to our long-suffering officers, especially in finance. It's been a long haul for all of us, and I thank them also for their patience and hard work. And I note that there are some things that are often not obvious, but we have had a very difficult discussion about the balance between asset renewal and new works or capital works. We do have ageing assets which have to be renewed. All these things are being addressed in this budget, and it's my belief that at any given point in time you might be able to say someone's getting more than somebody else, but I think over this next 4 years it's a really equitable budget. I think it's been a fair go for everybody. So I applaud that, and if I focus for a moment on the Bellarine ward, there's too many things happening in the Bellarine. I can't mention them all, but the Drysdale Library for $3.12 million and a total of $8.66 million over 4 years. The Leopold Pavilion Football Club at Estuary State, another $1.85 million. The Barwon Heads Arts and Community Hub, another $940,000. Ocean Grove Football Netball Club upgrades. The Drysdale Town Square upgrades, St Leonard's streetscape works. Thank you also, I must say, to Officer Dean Bushell for his special attention in St Leonard's and keeping us all very happy. And we also have the Port Arlington Reserve Master Plan, the Jetty Road, and this is an inspiring project, Jetty Road Children's and community hub in Curlewis. I won't add up all the millions of dollars, but it comes up to over $6 million over 4 years. And simple things like the Ocean Grove bike track, and there's going to be more of those, I'm sure. So I applaud this budget, and it's the way that it's been equitable for all.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Councillor Mansfield.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. Look, as has been pointed out, not everyone gets everything that they want in any budget process, but that's part of being in a democracy. And I think this budget overall, as several councillors have said, does deliver a whole range of measures for a very a broad cross-section of the community, and hopefully there is something in there for everyone over the 4-year period. I too would like to thank the officers for all the work that they've put into guiding us through this process. It's never easy, but I think of all the budgets we've been through, this has certainly been I think one of the best processes that we've really gone through to date. So really thank you for all the work, especially a lot of after hours work that went into this. So we're very grateful. Some of the things that I'll just touch on, probably a bit broader than just my ward, the Brownbill ward, but that I was really excited to see in the budget was funding for the next steps in our social housing strategy. So that'll help to keep that really important piece of work continuing. There's also been a significant increase in the amount available in the environmental sustainability grants. It's gone up to $150,000 a year. So if there's any community members listening who have previously applied for that grant pool, there's more money available. So you might have a better chance this time around. We've also got some funding going towards the development of a business case to become a biophilic city. And that one, people might say, well, what does that mean? Well, that's about how you can incorporate nature and nature-based design into urban design. And there's a very strong evidence base that can help to deliver significant benefits for health, wellbeing, and also livability in cities. There's a whole range of shared paths and footpaths, libraries has been mentioned, and the increased focus on asset renewal, because that was an area where we were potentially falling a bit behind. I'm hoping that in future budgets we can, maybe pay even more attention to this area, because it is that challenge of balancing renewing assets versus building new infrastructure, but it is very important that we maintain what we have. I think we've certainly heard strongly from the small business community about commercial rates, and that's already been discussed. We are taking some steps to try and address issues there. And look, we've heard through a whole range of different formats from different members of the community about maybe what is or isn't in the budget, often what isn't in the budget they'd like, maybe not seeing quite as much as what they'd like in there for them. I really wish we had endless capacity to do everything, because every request we get for the budget is generally pretty legitimate. It's and could be argued to be more important than something else. But we have to, at the end of the day, make some decisions. And I'd just say that keep engaging with us, because although it's a 4-year budget, things change. So there's always next year's budget.
Very good point, Councillor Mansfield. Thank you. Other councillors to comment on the budget? Councillor Contell.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Look, much has already been said, but I'll just touch on a couple of items. In terms of the commercial rates, this budget has taken its first step, a small step, but albeit a very important step, and that is freezing commercial rates at the current level. We did hear what the task force told us. We did hear what the traders have told us, and in particular those in the CBD and in Packington Street and those in High Street that talked to us personally. We know we've got a lot more work to do. We are hearing you. We are going to work with you to try and ensure that the commercial rates in Geelong are equitable and fair for all. In terms of a couple of little projects, I'm really pleased with the Hume Reserve Crier Soccer Club $2.8 million, a whopping $2.8 million for the Pavilion upgrade. Funding going to about $100,000 going towards the restricting traffic in Little Malop Street. And the one I'm particularly proud of is the public toilet going into Milton Street, Bell Park. That now sees us delivering new public toilets in just about every streetscape in Bell Park, Bellpost Hill and Hamlin Heights since 2010. So really pleased about that. Lastly, couldn't finish this without touching on the free parking. If this budget gets over the line, we will be the first council to introduce free parking every day for everybody, which is a huge step forward. We've been told for decades, or I've been told for well over a decade, in many forums, that free parking is necessary to revitalise and to help small businesses. In fact, our glorious local newspaper, the Geelong Addy, had a survey just in April. Some 1,400 people responded to that survey, Madam Mayor, on this item alone, and about 1,320 supported our line item for free parking. So I'm extremely pleased that this council is taking that courageous step forward, and in my personal calendar at least, if this budget gets over the line, I will be proclaiming in my calendar that this is World Geelong Free Parking Day, every day for everybody.
Thank you, Councillor Contell. Any other comments? I'll just make a very quick one. I think the words of Councillor Grisbeck were ringing in my ears very nicely. It's a very balanced budget. The fact that we've got a rollout of nearly $750 million worth of capital infrastructure over the 4 years is balanced by the fact that we have to run a deficit for a couple of years. The fact that that record investment does provide continued support for the pandemic effects as well, and delivers significant benefit by way of community facilities that will sustainably grow our city. It is a very, very thoughtful budget. There is no way that we didn't spend the last 7 months most nights of the week thinking about this to not come up with this. And I'd also like to pay my respects and thanks to the team led by Michael Degina and Karen Osnicki and Narelle O'Shea in particular. They did an excellent job, fantastic effort to coordinate everybody's viewpoints and include all the various community items and those from the offices as well. So credit to the team and led by the CEO, Martin Cutter, of course, too. So thank you very much to the officers for all the work that you've done. We'll go back to Councillor Aitken to close.
Thank you very much, Mayor Asher. Look, the discussion from the council group actually shows the diversity of what we are as the council, and I'm really proud that I can actually talk about finances at a strategic level. There are some other historic things that are happening with this budget. Mayor Asher, for the first time ever, our net assets and total equity is $3 billion, and our total income turnover is $550 million. So that just shows you the size of the organisation and the responsibility that we have as councillors, because we actually are dealing with a significant entity and a significant organisation, and to be able to deliver to our community with the confidence that we're talking about tonight reflects the amount of work that we've done and also the amount of work that our officers, who have rightly been acknowledged tonight, in particular Michael, Karen and Narelle. But I do want to also thank our rating team. I don't think people understand how difficult it is when you've got an annual cap, when you've got annual CPI increases, and when you've got differential rate definitions as well too. It's actually quite a significant amount of work that actually does go into our rating team, so I thank them as well too. Look, we have got challenges ahead. Of course, COVID is a continuing challenge financially for us. We do have the rate review that will possibly have significant impact on us going forward as well too. And unfortunately, the rate capping, although it may be seen as a major benefit to the community, it actually makes it very difficult for a high growth council like ourselves. We are one of the fastest growing councils in Australia, and we are one of the only ones in the Australia, excluding other Victorian councils, they're actually capped every single year. So in fact, our cost structures are increasing higher than what our main revenue income source is, and it's an inequity that does need to be addressed, and we are trying to do that by trying to seek additional funding support from the state government and federal governments through grant programs. So I'm really proud of what everyone's achieved. I thank all the councillors for their contribution to this, and I look forward to getting things done, which is what this council has clearly stamped what it actually is about. We get things done.
Councillor Aitken, and excellent job as Finance Chair too, I forgot to mention that. On that note, we'll put the budget to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 3 is the Council's submission to the draft Central Geelong Framework Plan and Ministerial Amendment C431GGEE, to be moved by Councillor Grisbeck and seconded by Councillor Harwood. Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I'm hoping Councillor Harwood will pick up anything that I might have forgotten in this process. It's a good tag team effort here. This report is a recommendation from council officers to endorse the submission, the draft submission to the framework plan and the amendment process. This plan was developed by DELP. This is their vision for the land use and development in Central Geelong for the next 30 years. This is essentially the rule book on how the city can grow while retaining its best features. There are some concerns from our perspective, which we have addressed in our submission. One is the failure to address the long-standing issues with the Mirabel Street bus interchange and the lack of information or alternate routes as part of a relocation, which limits other alternative transport options more broadly. There is a failure to provide a rail link to Avalon and the lack of strategies and actions for the Geelong railway station for rail in particular. The proposed freight route along McKillop Street and no reference to the Ballerine link being the preferred option for the long-term solution. McKillop Street is their option to remove unnecessarily large vehicles moving through central Geelong, and I think I speak from the information that I've got from other councillors and council officers is that that's not our long-term solution to get cars and trucks out of the CBD of Geelong. McKillop Street is not where we would see that next opportunity to be. We believe that there should be a longer-term solution addressed in this plan. We also note that there's an absence of how the state is going to assist council to implement all of these changes, and it is a large task to implement the changes as they sit in the draft plan. And we want to know how that they can help us resource the changes, how funding might be provided to assist council in all the things that need changing. This is a submissions process that will be considered by an advisory committee at a public hearing in September and October before the recommendations are made to the Minister for Planning. So whilst we agree with some of the framework plan, in our view, in the draft submission we have highlighted those things that we think are essential to building a correct framework that will really take Geelong into the future. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck. Councillor Harwood.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think if ever there was a document coming for community consultation or input, this is it. The CBD has been a huge topic of debate for some time for a whole bunch of reasons, some which you've heard this evening. But this particular plan that's been put forward by DELP, or the vision and guidance as they're referring it to, has a number of flaws in it that will have serious effects and will resonate with us for many, many years if we don't get in and argue what we really want to see in the CBD and the surrounding areas. Councillor Grisbeck has rightly touched on a few of the areas that we have concerns with, and those concerns are real and not just in the last 12 months, they're over a number of years. And one that wasn't actually touched on is Ryrie Street truck movement, which is a huge community issue and has not gone away. We had a commitment some time ago there would be works done or a commitment from the state government to be further engaged. We're yet to see that, but we're certainly keen to still stay engaged in that space. One of the areas that is touched on is in relation to the increase of more than 1 million square metres of new development for housing and jobs. What that effectively means is 1 million square metres of new development is where is that going to go? Where have they actually earmarked the potential for that to go? We've already seen development occurring in the CBD region. We've seen 2 high-rises down in Mercer Street. Now, there's an interim overlay down in Mercer Street to actually put some of the development on hold. So it's very unknown as to how that might look and what pressure that may actually put on the actual CBD area as we know it, how that might look and what capacity it can take for high-rise. Because to put a million square metres of development, you will need high-rise. Now, is it 10 the limit? Is 20 the limit? Is 30 the limit? How are they going to do that? What is going to be the magic number there, and how is that going to fall out over time? And again, we need the community to step up and tell us what they would like to see in the CBD and the surrounding area of the CBD. So by 2030-ish, we're looking to put 12,000 people in and around that area. So it's going to be a very interesting debate and discussion of how that goes with the community. And we've already, as I touched on, we've already seen issues down in Mercer Street with developers trying to have that conversation. It's been pushed back to basically a holding pattern, which is not a good scenario to actually stop consultation in many areas and try and work out how that's going to form in the next few years. The other issue, I guess, is we need the community. We need the media to get on board and highlight what our concerns are and what the community concerns will be, so we can have these up front and centre, so we can have the discussion with DELP about what we would like to see from a council and community perspective. If we don't get good, strong feedback, it will wilt on the vine and we won't have the argument as strong as we need it to be. Thank you.
Councillor Harwood. Other councillors to comment on this item? Councillor Murray.
Yeah, I thank Councillor Grisbeck and Councillor Harwood for their comments on this, and I just wanted to focus on one particular area, and that is the transport network. And this is DELP's 30-year vision and guidance for Central Geelong. So it's their 30-year vision, and we've got our own clever and creative 30-year vision refresh on the same agenda tonight. And I know it's been raised, but I wanted to raise it again, a proposed freight route along the Killip Street and no reference to the Ballerine link being the preferred long-term solution to removing unnecessary freight movements through Central Geelong. So DELP don't actually see it as an issue, yet in our clever and creative document, success will be achieved by the diversion of road traffic around urban centres. So we're in direct conflict. Maybe it's just an oversight by DELP. Maybe we can forgive them for that. But I wanted to highlight that because it's been raised in this chamber many times, and it appears it's fallen on deaf ears with DELP. Madam Mayor.
Councillor Murray. Other comments on this item? Councillor Aitken.
Asha. Look, it's fascinating because the community actually thinks that council is developing this plan. It also thinks that council controls the CBD. In fact, since 2015, council hasn't controlled the CBD at all. There's an authority called the Geelong Authority, which effectively has been the overseer of what's happened in the CBD of Geelong. And the Department of Environment, Water, Land and Planning is actually a state department. And the Geelong Authority and DELP are both controlling what's happened in the last 6 years in Geelong. And in fact, most of the complaints that I hear as a councillor about the CBD of Geelong is that the high-rise buildings that have just gone up everywhere, and doesn't seem to be any plan associated with that. And also the lack of a major review and understanding of how to create new and improved public transport access to the CBD of Geelong. And the responsibility rests clearly with the Geelong Authority and the department, the planning department at the state level. But what's happening is everybody keeps saying, well, what's council doing about it? Well, in fact, we can't hardly do anything about it because it's actually controlled by somebody else. And it's the same as tonight. This isn't our document. We're actually being asked to respond to it and actually put forward our views. And we're actually highlighting significant concerns about the document. You know, one councillor has touched on the issue about McKillop Street, which is a residential street, is actually being proposed to be the major freight route to move through the centre of Geelong. Well, our community's not going to accept that, and nor should they accept that, because a lot of people have lived there for a long time, and there's actually infrastructure there which needs to be removed for it to even be considered as a major freight route. It's actually got a level crossing on it. So this document should actually talk about the level crossing should be removed, and a funding and an action plan should be established before you even consider turning a residential street into a freight route hub, which is being proposed. There's also an attempt in this document by the Geelong Authority and the department to clean up their mess of the last 6 years. You know, like that they're trying to now put height limits in to try to address the mess and concern that they've created in the last 5 years in the CBD of Geelong. And I commend them for that, because actually it's actually really difficult for governments and personalities that represent governments to actually say we've made a mistake. Well, in fact, this document makes it quite clear that the Geelong Authority and the department made mistakes over the last 6 years, and they do understand that we need to protect our vista towards the bay, and we do have to have height regulations that actually protect those sight lines as you move towards the bay, and this document attempts to try to address this. But unless we actually have a firm understanding about public transport and a commitment to address that, and vision in a document such as this, which includes the proposals of a bridge across the bay, we're wasting everyone's time. I mean, our developers are already concerned and maybe pulling out of Geelong associated with this proposed document. And we're at the tipping point here where we have to actually work with our markets, we have to work with the council, and we have to understand that we can't just keep on doing what we're doing and telling people what to do, which is essentially what the Geelong Authority and the department have been doing for the last 6 years in Geelong.
Councillor Aitken. Councillor Contell.
Madam Mayor, you could certainly sense and hear the passion in the room, and rightly so, because I think this council does have a reasonable understanding of community expectations, and also has a reasonable understanding of our next sort of 30-year vision. As Councillor Murray has said, we've already spoken about that this evening. And I'm sure there's some great initiatives in this document, but I've only got 3 minutes, so I don't want to waste my time dwelling on those. We need to continue to push the issues that we feel are important for the community, as Councillor Harwood has said. And it's hard to get engagement from the community. So we need to be talking about it at every opportunity that we can. And it's really lacks in vision in some areas, particularly around car parking, which talks about turning our current street-level car parks into open spaces. I'm not against that. I'm not against the open spaces. But there's then nothing to suggest what is the solution and the alternatives for car parking. If we want urban parks and urban spaces, well, let's take advantage, as Councillor Nelson has said in the past, close off Mallop Street and let's turn Mallop Street into an urban park, like the Champs-Élysées in Paris is doing, if that's what we really want to do. But we still need car parking. Transport has been mentioned by 3 or 4 councillors now. It really is important. What are we doing with the buses? Will they remain in Moorabool Street, or should they go elsewhere? And then what happens with our public transport network? We know that this council didn't adopt it. We actually put a notice of motion, in fact an amendment, which I moved, that we don't want trucks in McKillop Street. We need an alternative solution. As the Western Link was already, or the Ballerine Link was already mentioned, and potentially a bridge over Corio Bay. If this is a 30-year vision, you've got to be visionary. And the other item that I see is sort of lacking is our whole waterfront, our Corio Bay. There is no real mention of how do we take advantage of that bay. You know, we've seen small examples. The Christmas tree is a small example of how we can use the bay to really attract people to our town, to bring joy to the community, to stimulate economic growth and financial gain for our municipality. There's nothing there about, you know, large installations of artwork or whatever else we can do with Corio Bay. And then it has been mentioned also removal of rail crossings, all fundamental infrastructure projects that really need to be considered in this vision. The difficult part will be, as Councillor Harwood has said, is how do we ensure that the community know about this and put input forward, because they really have a lot to offer here, and it's probably going to be upon us to make sure that we drive that.
Well said, Councillor Contel. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Asher, and thank you all the councillors who've contributed to this discussion. It's a really rich one. I don't have anything to object in what I've heard so far tonight, so there's no point repeating it all, other than really saying that it is the opportunity now to hear from the community, and let's hope we get some inspiring ideas from the community. This DELP plan, in some respects, I find it's really quite disappointing in that it's kicking the can down the road to some extent. It hasn't been really objective. It's said, oh, it's not our responsibility as a Department of Transport. Well, there's a fundamental thing. That's one of the things that's been going on for such a long time. We seem, in that sense, the whole design, the whole vision is constrained and it's stalling. We've got to nail it. We've got to get over this and we've got to go forward. Having said that, there are quite a lot of good things in this report as well. And as Councillor Aitken mentioned, the review of the city heights and zonings, etc. There's a lot of good things there. There are other good things, such as the consideration of sunlight, wind and rain. And we need to remember that this is not a Mediterranean climate. It's a maritime climate, and we're in for much more intense climate conditions in the future. And in that sense, we do need to give further consideration to the development of a biophilic city and the development of the natural environment and ecosystems in our major boulevards and streets. And there needs to be more attention there, and it has been recognised. So I do thank the officers for all of the hard work they've done in producing and discussing with us their objections. And what hasn't been mentioned already is the private-public realm. There's not been enough discussion about that, and the officers have noted that. The resourcing and funding needs clarification, and we do need further inputs from the state. And of course, as we've just mentioned, all the unresolved transport problems. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Councillor Mason. Other comments on this one?
Oh.
Councillor Nelson, go on then.
I wasn't going to, and I'm not going to bring anything new other than the fact that it's certainly been well said by Councillor Murray, Councillor Aitken, Councillor Mansfield, Councillor Howard and Councillor Mason. But a 30-year vision that doesn't take into account Moorabool Street bus interchange, a 30-year vision that doesn't address Avalon Airport Rail, a 30-year vision that thinks trucks along McKillop Street is okay, a 30-year vision that says we'll just remove the city's car parks and put green spaces. And then other councillors have said, okay, well, that's the Department of Transport's problem, and that's the Department of the DELP's problem, and that's the Geelong Authority's problem. At the end of the day, it's our problem, and it's been created by the state government. The buck has to stop with someone, and we can't stop blaming bureaucrats for this, because this is a state government issue. And this is their 30-year vision for Geelong. We're kidding ourselves if this state government thinks that those things are acceptable, because I certainly don't.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Any other comments on this one? I'll just quickly urge people to have their say as well. So please, you've heard what the councillors think, so do go to engage.vic.gov.au/CGF PAC, and you've got until the 7th of July to do so. So we look forward to people putting their thoughts forward. Okay, so back to Councillor Grisbeck to close. Thanks, Councillor Grisbeck.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to everyone that has spoken on this topic. You can tell that this is a topic which councillors are passionate about. We need to get right. In relation to the transport, if we want to be a CBD that is livable, then we need a decent transport plan, something that deals with the issues that now and something that's going to deal with the issues will be in 30 years' time. We need the departments to talk to each other. DELP, talk to the Department of Transport. Department of Transport, talk to DELP. Because at every stage along the process, when we were being briefed, I would ask a question of DELP, what's happening with this particular part of the Transport Network Plan? Oh, that's Department of Transport, and vice versa. So I think we need a document that is the state government's view, which encapsulates all of the departments together, so we can really make a submission that looks at the whole plan. So look, as the Mayor has said, have your say on this. This is open to the community. We want the community to tell DELP and us what they think about this. Our submission will be considered by an advisory committee at the public hearing, as I said before, and then the recommendations from that public hearing will go to the Minister for Planning. Thank you to Gareth Smith and his team and the planning team for the hard work on this submission. It was a short turnaround time, and that's one of the reasons why it's going to be a huge amount of work for council to do if it was to be implemented the way it sits right now. So I think we'll leave it at that, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck, and well said. Okay, we'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Aitken, are you paying attention?
Ali.
Ali?
Ali.
All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. Item 4 is Vital Communities Addressing Disadvantage, to be moved by Councillor Aitken. That's what you're clearly looking at. And seconded by Councillor Mansfield. Thank you, Councillor Aitken.
Thank you very much, Mayor Asher. Look, it actually gives me really, this is a unique piece of work for the City of Greater Geelong. We've faced a challenge for not just since we were re-elected in 2017, but a challenge in Geelong for a very long time, that we have locational disadvantage in Geelong. So the reality is, if you were born in Corio or Norlane or Whittington, and to a lesser extent Port Arlington, the reality is that you're going to have it much harder than what you are if you're born in other parts of Geelong. And it's never sat well with many of us. And about 3.5 years ago, we challenged the organisation to actually say, well, what are we really doing about it? What public policy has failed in terms of addressing the longer-term disadvantage that exists in Geelong? And it's not just at the local government level. In fact, we play a very minor role in it. However, our state and federal governments have a significant role to play in it. Our federal government is essentially responsible for our social welfare systems, which is the income supports and the health systems that we have. Our state government is significantly responsible for the education that's required. And local government, what we do, we end up, trying to fix up a lot of the problems that occur in those areas. But ultimately, collaboratively, we haven't really worked, and we haven't actually said, what do we need to do to actually try to bring us together to stop talking about disadvantage and actually making an essential change in those communities. And look, it's even fascinating now. Before I came tonight, I looked at the unemployment stats again, and for the March quarter, the aggregate level for Geelong was 4.3. Fantastic, isn't it? 4.3 for Geelong. For Victoria, it's 6.6. Wow, isn't that fantastic that Geelong's below the state level? Well, you know what happens out at Corio and Norlane? It's 12.6. It's actually nearly 3 times what the average rate for unemployment is. And I'm not going to accept that while I'm a councillor. And I won't accept that we're going to continue that to allow to continue. And we have to do something. And I'm really pleased that the officers actually did bring forward this research piece. We worked with Deakin University with the Home Research Project Hub, and led by Dr. Tucker, and they brought some really good foundation information back to us. So it's evidence-based now. Like we've actually got 14 priority areas that we're talking about associated with locational disadvantage. We now know that digital exclusion is a major issue in that community. We know that disengagement from school and adult education is a major issue, and we're actually seeing retention rates dropping again. Like we've lost our commitment in Australia to actually say, if you can stay along the schools as long as you can, that's what you should be doing. But we've worked away from that commitment as a community. I've already touched on unemployment. You know, Indigenous health and wellbeing is increasing in my community in the northern suburbs because of the prison precinct that exists out in Lara, and the Indigenous community want to be close to their family members that are incarcerated. We need better access to health services. We've got mental health and wellbeing problems. We've got domestic violence problems. We've got housing stress. We've got and homelessness that exists. The number of people living in their cars in those three areas is quite staggering when you actually drive around the streets and actually have a look at what's occurring in that community. We need housing upgrade. We've got mobility and accessibility issues because most of our people with disabilities actually live in our lowest disadvantaged areas because it's the cheapest housing stock they can get to. Well, this document actually gives us a bit of a voice and a bit of evidence to actually start our campaign as a council group to advocate. What we're doing tonight is noting this document, and then we're going to have some stakeholder and public engagement for it. And I encourage the community, especially the community most affected by this in Whittington, Carrara and Norland, and even Port Arlington, to actually challenge us, challenge the state and federal politicians, tell us to work together and actually start developing some public policy that's going to change this significant issue that occurs in our community. And I look forward to the recommendations that actually come back to us. And I also encourage the council group to actually say, we're going to have to put some finances behind it as well too. So we will come back with some financial challenges with these recommendations. And so congratulations to the officers, congratulations to Deakin University, our preeminent education organisation in our community. And I look forward to the next step in this process, Mayor Asher.
Thank you, Councillor Aitken. Councillor Mansfield.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. And look, Councillor Aitken has really, I think, really well articulated how comprehensive this report is. It's almost like it's someone's thesis. It's incredible, and it goes into a huge amount of. And I'm so impressed that this was produced in the time frame that it was as well, because it is so comprehensive. And it isn't just a report on how things are, because I think, one thing that I struggle with is that we've known for a very long time a lot of the things that are outlined in this report. One of the things that inspired me to even get involved in politics was the studies that were done looking into the social determinants of health, which were first done probably in I think it was the 60s and 70s, decades ago, showing that it wasn't really medical care that influenced your health outcomes. It was a whole lot of social and environmental factors that had huge differences in people's health and mortality rates. And that's been repeated again and again and again and again and again in multiple studies. So we know a lot of this information, but what I really like about this report is that it identifies some practical actions that we can take as a local government. And a lot of it we are already starting to do. For example, housing comes up repeatedly throughout this report, and we are starting to address that with our social housing strategy. We're not just waiting for other levels of government to do that. We've identified what levers we have as a local government, and in partnership with those other levels of government, what more we can add to that to improve the access to housing. There's initiatives around food security. Again, we're looking more creatively at what we can do around that. It's not just providing support for food relief, but also looking at things like community gardens and other ways of empowering communities to get better access to nutritious food. So I think this is a very positive outcome from this report, having these actions. We are going to enter into some further community engagement around these and really look at how we can address some of these location-based issues, working in partnership with the community. And my only hope is that this brilliant report doesn't just join all the rest of the reports that have told us these same things over many decades about the sources of disadvantage, and that we can start to to really focus our energies on taking some positive steps to addressing these.
Thank you, Councillor Mansfield. Any other comments? Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Asher, and Councillor Aitken and Councillor Mansfield have really expressed it extremely well. I also think it's an extremely excellent report. I just wanted to mention a couple of things that haven't been mentioned, and generational change is one of the issues. In some areas are diminishing, and I note in this report that we do have special programs for children using the word links, play links, singing links, music links and nature links. And I think that we really do need to think of the children, and especially in their formative years, and what special programs we can have for them in these situations. And associated with that is special health promotion, not only food security, but healthy eating, etc. Thank you.
Councillor Mason. Other comments on this item? Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I too wanted to comment about perhaps the report itself. Like in my time, I haven't seen a report to this standard or this calibre. I think it's so complex, so comprehensive, so very, very detailed, and there's so much information in it. It's such an excellent report, and when you begin reading it, it absorbs you, and you really see what's happening out there in the suburbs. And I think the comment I wanted to make about this, as a council group, what more can we do? And I think I'd like to spend more time on the report itself, perhaps another time, where as a group we spend a number of hours going through the report itself and what can be achieved out of it. It is such an excellent report. So that's probably my comments on it, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Harwood.
Madam Mayor, I just want to quickly just make a point, I guess, in relation to some of the we're tackling the disadvantage of predominantly the north, which is fair enough and well documented, but we shouldn't forget other areas of the region. And the Belmonts, Heightons, Grove does, Bellpost Hills, pockets of the Bellarine. There's quite a spread across the region. It's not just isolated to the north. Yes, the north is identified as having more issues than perhaps other parts, but that's not the point, I don't think, with a document like this. In actual fact, you have to look at the whole area. That's what we should do, and not just concentrate on one pocket. So I'll just make that particular point. I just want to give a quick acknowledgement to former Councillor Pat Manone, which is no disrespect at all to Belinda. I'm sure she doesn't take it that way. But Pat was one of the drivers in this area in relation to certainly food relief, obviously social housing. So we see this document now being produced, which really starts to, as Councillor Murray said, really enforce some of those sort of comments and I guess work done thus far. But as we know, much more to be done. But let's not get too narrow in our thinking where we have to concentrate and keep an open and broad mind on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harwood, and well said. I certainly spent a couple of hours with the Feed Me Bellarine, Feed Me Torquay and Feed Me Geelong team yesterday, and it is certainly not restricted to only the north or any particular area. It is everywhere. So it's certainly an issue that needs to be addressed. Any other councillors wishing to comment? Back to Councillor Aitken to close.
Thank you very much, Mayor. I am going to speak again because we don't get much of a chance to talk on topics like this. But I'll be very quick. Look, it's an extremely complex problem, and that's why we've failed over 50 to 60 years with it. Coordinating 3 tiers of government to actually work together to try to develop public policy that can address generational problems, and it will take generations to change it. we can make no decision overnight that's going to impact on this. This is actually going to take years to be able to do it. And it's also really difficult to engage the private sector as well too. And the private sector does play a very important role in trying to assist to address the disadvantage that exists. But we've got to have a try, you know, like, and we shouldn't, and we've got to keep challenging ourselves as well too, to make sure that we give the significance and priorities. I mean, hope has been lost in a lot of these communities, and we've got to try and restore that hope. And I know they're just seen as motherhood words, but that's the reality. I mean, like, I can remember when I was growing up in the 70s as a child in the northern suburbs, I never thought I would never have a job. I always thought I'll get a job. Back then I thought it was either going to be Ford's, Alcoa, Shell, but I never thought I would not get a job. The sad reality is today, if you're born in Whittington, Corio and Norlone, you don't actually have role models in your community of people that have actually worked, and you don't have a clear aspiration of hope about what you want to do. And I want to be part of a council and a community that cares for all, doesn't leave people behind, and it actually finds solutions to these extremely complex and challenging problems.
Thank you, Councillor Aitken. Very well said. I'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour, and I think it'll be all of us. Thank you. Those against, carried. Item 5 is the adoption of the Sale Yards Precinct Plan, to be moved by Councillor Murray and seconded by Councillor Contell. Thanks, Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's recommended tonight to adopt the Sale Yards Precinct Plan and request authorisation from the Minister for Planning to prepare a planning scheme amendment. This plan provides the direction on the land use of the former Sale Yards site and design of the development and adjoining land in North Geelong. The draft plan was released for public consultation in May 2020, and the results of this consultation showed that it was support of the mixed housing types, provision of the affordable social housing, and it's council policy to seek affordable housing assessment as part of the rezoning of major sites such as this. It talks about the sustainability and to include heritage elements, the history of the site and quality green spaces. There were concerns over the intensity of the development, the impacts of the neighbourhood, concerns over social housing, traffic, preserving the heritage of the site and funding for the plan. Council will consider a report later this year on the various options available to the council as a landholder, with a vision to delivering the very best for the site. Council is engaged with other major landholders to consider and incorporate their aspirations for the site, which is for a mixed use and residential precinct. So, indeed, if adopted, a planning scheme amendment would begin shortly, which would include the opportunity for the community to provide further feedback. And it's important to note, Madam Mayor, that historical material will be retained wherever possible and reused or interpreted. And the preferred outcome or goal is that this site will become the flagship community of North Geelong. Thanks, Madam Mayor.
Great, thank you, Councillor Murray. Councillor Contell.
Madam Mayor, look, there are many positive aspects of this plan, and I've been supportive of it since its inception, notwithstanding that it is sad that we have lost the Sale Yards to Geelong. I know there's a lot of work going on in the background, particularly through Councillor Mason, looking at ways that we can address some of the needs of that community. Having said that, we have moved on from there, at least for this area of Geelong. My only concern, because Councillor Murray has already mentioned many of the positives, my only concern is that the broader community are potentially still not aware of just how significant this development is and what is going to be occurring in the future. I know that we've gone out there and asked for public consultation, And I know that we've tried to engage with the community, but like many of these developments, it's not until it starts or turns up in your backyard, pardon pun, that you finally realise, oh hell, I didn't know that was going on. An example of that was last week where Councillor Aitken and I met with the Packington Street Traders Association, who are quite knowledgeable on all things Geelong West, and there was not much knowledge of this topic in that room, and that does concern me. It was a meeting after ours as well. Councillor Murray was a week later, but yes, I acknowledge that Councillor Mansfield and Murray also met with the traders. So that does concern me, and I know that there's another opportunity here for community to be able to provide feedback, and we can see that when a community is informed, i.e. the South Geelong community, who are very aware of the UDF that's occurring there, you get a lot of feedback. And my concern is that we probably didn't get as much as what I would have liked to have seen. So I think we need to continue to make sure the community is aware of what will be occurring in this precinct. I do think there's a lot of positives, but I do still harbour some concern that when the first sod is turned is when we'll start to hear about the feedback.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Contel. Other comments? Councillor Aitken.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. Just very quickly, look, I congratulate the officers to listening to the feedback that they did receive. When this was first brought before council, it was much more defined in terms of what was expected in terms of the concept plan, and it appears the officers have listened to the feedback that's been provided to them, and they've actually lessened the definitions, so it actually tries to stimulate the activity that we need on this particular site. The planning scheme amendment is going to be the interesting process, because it's where we're actually going to put the meat and the controls of what actually happens at this significant rejuvenation project, because essentially it's turning an historic industrial site location, which includes the sale yards which existed for over 110 years, into a mixed use and residential new suburb. And that probably explains why we're having difficulties engaging with the community, because there's not a community really there. But this project actually is a significant renewal of a site location which is deserved of our attention, and in fact will enhance significant investments that have already been made by the state and the council, in particular at Geelong West Oval, which was a significant financial commitment from both those tiers of government. Well, it's within this precinct and actually continue to enhance the value that we've put into that site location through this precinct. And I also encourage the council to move quickly, because we've got a significant financial interest in this site location with potential sale of the sale yards. So if we can move to planning scheme amendment process ASAP, it's going to financially assist the organisation, and importantly it will assist us with our work that's been touched on, where the Perry Urban and Rural Advisory Committee tonight has now got their feasibility funds after the decision that we made during the budget, so they can look at the feasibility of a new livestock and information exchange within the boundaries of the city of Greater Geelong. And we've also made forward estimates of putting over $2 million available for expenditure on that project. So there's exciting things that fall from this precinct plan, and then the planning control schemes that are in place. And I certainly encourage that we try to move as quickly as possible, generate the income that we can, and build a fantastic new community in that northern part of Geelong.
Councillor Aitken. Other councillors to talk about this one? Okay, back to Councillor Murray to close. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. And that new community, when it's fully complete, will be 1,000 to 1,300 residents. We'll have 1,800 square metres of retail and 4 hectares of publicly accessible open space. So it's an exciting project, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. So I'll put that one to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 6 is the Sustainability Performance Targets and Indicators Report, and I'll be moving this one, and it will be seconded by Councillor Maloney. It's a very exciting moment for those of us that are involved in the performance of the City of Greater Geelong in terms of sustainability actions. And I've said it countless times before, but I'll say it yet again, sustainability is not just about environmental management. Sustainability at the City of Greater Geelong is about how we look to the endurance of our lifestyle and communities, the survival of the creatures and the life forms around us, and the financial success that keeps the organisation operating. When we're aiming to improve, it's impossible to do so if you don't measure your current performance and also have a target to aim at. If you're playing darts, you don't simply throw the darts around the room, you need a dartboard, preferably with numbers on it. And that's where we are at in this organisation, and that's what this item is about. This list of measures is our dartboard. For so long, we've had a range of different measures, benchmarks and indicators that are almost cutely unique to local government, or in some cases quite specific to the City of Greater Geelong. And this is about bringing maturity to how we measure our impacts as an organisation, and it's also about working out practical ways to include the community in improving our social, environmental and economic performance. And the introduction of our Sustainability Framework and Action Plan was to keep the focus on action, not just activism. And yes, we all acknowledge that it's an important part of this work that we are in a climate emergency, but the issues and the actions needed to address that are not limited to that singular topic. And these targets are aligned to our strategic directions that we just talked about in the community plan, the four most important strategic areas for our community in Greater Geelong, and they are localised to be meaningful to those communities in all of our 4 wards. And just as importantly, the way we report against these targets is aligned with local and state government benchmarks and also with global best practice. And our indicators are those ones that are used by the most mature reporting standards in the world, the GRI, and we're also aligning with the globally accepted Sustainable Development Goals. And this is the same approach that's used by publicly listed, publicly accountable multinationals to make sure that everyone's measuring the same things and so that apples can be actually compared to apples. Now that's gobbledygook to all but the genuine sustainability tragics, so I'll focus more on how we arrived at the targets. Our Sustainability Advisory Committee, which I chair with Councillor Maloney as my excellent deputy, has provided detailed feedback and insight into what we should be aiming at. And these targets have been considered and argued, and we've arrived at a place that we can all support as the best way to make a difference. And this committee has a level of expertise and representation that most councils could only dream about, and I'm hugely grateful to our committee members for their passion and their ongoing input. It's a real shift for a council committee to be genuinely driving the change and leading the agenda rather than commenting on predetermined plans and strategies. So it's not a particularly comfortable space for some people, but we're doing a great job. The team is doing a really excellent job with it. I'll leave it there for now as these targets are reasonably self-explanatory, and I'm sure there are at least a few councillors who want to discuss the details, so thank you. Councillor Maloney.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. And thank you so much for highlighting the commitment that our committee has made to these targets. I think that the information that our heavy hitters have provided has been really enlightening to myself. These targets are ambitious, but so are we. And I think that in making our pretty city a more sustainable place to live, this is such an important topic, and more important than ever, I would say. We have the unique opportunity to lead our community in reducing our carbon emissions, educating our constituents, and also facilitating folks in making a shift towards a more environmentally symbiotic way of life. To quote an infamous singer, it is now or never. And if we don't start and act and set at these targets now, our future generations will inherit a future that is unlivable. We seek to invoke these sustainability targets to ensure our community, our local economy, and our natural environment are protected from future climate events. I also want to thank our committee for highlighting some of the blind spots that we might have had as a council group. I'm also looking forward to seeing us smash these targets like Geelong Cats smashed the Bulldogs on Friday night. Thank you, Mayor Asher.
Thank you, Councillor Maloney. I hope it's actually more convincing that win was. Are there other councillors wanting to comment? Councillor Mansfield.
Thank you, Mayor Asher, and thank you to both yourself and Councillor Maloney for all the work that's gone into this. I think two of the really the things that stand out for me in this are that 100% of new and reviewed city plans, strategies, policies will consider sustainability impacts and risks by 2022. and the subsequent item, the 100% of council reports will include consideration of financial, social, community engagement and environmental implications from this year. I think in order to embed these principles across the organisation, we need to be thinking about it in everything that we do. And so by making it a practice to consider them as part of every single report, and every strategy, every policy, it just ensures that sustainability does become a truly embedded concept across the board. I suppose one little sort of area of caution would be just around, I guess, with any target, you can potentially create some unintended consequences. So I note that we have got the wonderful target of 100% of garbage, recyclables and green organics collected from curbside bins to be directed from landfill by 2030. I fully support that target. I think we've got a lot of work to do to ensure that that waste is dealt with in an environmentally sustainable way. The temptation can be sometimes, in order to reach targets, that we sometimes find other ways of meeting them that aren't necessarily leading to a preferred outcome. So, for example, incinerating waste is sometimes looked at as an option for dealing with garbage. It certainly keeps waste out of landfill, but it has its own environmental costs that need to be considered. So I really hope that this stimulates a whole lot of innovation and a much more sustainable approach to waste management and sustainability much more broadly across the organisation.
Thank you, Councillor Mansfield. Councillor Aitken.
Mayor Asher, thank you very much. I've actually enjoyed this journey because I can remember when we had the debate, and it was actually down to my last little vote whether we voted for a climate emergency or whether we actually went for a sustainability plan. And it's actually been a fantastic... I feel really vindicated by my decision that night, because it actually wasn't easy, because I'm a really big sympathiser towards community activism, but I've learnt from this experience that this was a much more meaningful manner in which to respond to that particular issue, and I think it certainly has educated me to put my own biases aside and actually focus on what is our greater responsibility, because our response was to create the sustainability framework. A next step was to create the action plan, and the next step was actually what we're doing tonight, which is to create some targets and some indicators, and we've clearly identified 23 key driving sustainable objectives. I mean, I've educated myself that it's not just about the environment, which is, was a revelation, because if I just listened to what I was being told, it was just all about the environment. Councillor Aiken, that's your responsibility. But I've learned it's also about the economy, and I've learned that it's also about community health, and that meaningful understanding of what our response should be has now led to the point that we're going to be accountable about this as well too. So we're not just going to make a statement about it, we're going to be accountable. And what we're going to do is annually, we're going to be reporting about these indicators. So I've really enjoyed this experience. It's educated me, and it's taught me about the responsibilities that I have as a councillor and how to actually develop much more meaningful responses and also lead the community, because we had to lead the community towards this process, because the noisy element of the community was actually telling us they wanted to go down a different path. But I'm really proud of the path that we chose, and this is the third significant step in that process, and I think it really is a blueprint for other councils as well too, to actually how you can respond to this, what is one of our most significant responsibilities that we have. Sorry.
Choking up there, Councillor Aiken. Thank you. Councillor Mason.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. Councillor Aitken's choking me as well. But I say that in a light way, Councillor Aitken. I've spent quite a lot of my life working towards the alleviation of poverty, and I'm reminded by the Sustainable Development Goals that they actually emanated from the Millennium Development Goals, where there were, in those days, cross-cutting issues were spread across a logical framework of planning. Log frames, they were called. So it was no education for me, Councillor Aitken, that the Sustainable Development Goals, the 17 of them, are extremely important. And I feel that it's wonderful that we've got where we've got with our sustainability framework. But just to make a point, we could have done both. It was an emergency, it is an emergency. Anyway, much later, we're all in the same place. But I also heard what Councillor Mansfield said, and it is really important that we do design our measures of success well. And there can be ill-defined targets, poorly designed targets, which actually have consequences, unintended consequences. And like any project that requires evaluation and review, so does this. And I look forward to, first of all, I do have to say I do applaud it. It's excellent. But we do have to go through a process of review and see what's successful and what is not successful and improve it still. So I do look forward to learning more lessons on how we can best effectively measure what we do, while not inhibiting a general program thrust that might need to meet individual indicators. Anyway, I congratulate the work that everyone's done on this sustainability framework, and I look forward to the excellent results that we expect.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Any other comments on this one? Councillor Contell.
I do thank everyone that's contributed to this, and particularly those that have, subject matter expert input into these types of matters. No doubt, Councillor Mansfield has been, strong in her input, which has been great. But also, I do want to identify the leadership by Councillor Asher. At the time where we were reviewing this over the last couple of years, I guess for a period of that time, I chaired the portfolio for the environment, and it was very helpful having yourself and, of course, Councillor Mansfield to guide us through that. But as Councillor Aitken said, your leadership with this initiative has been incredibly strong, and we appreciate that. I think testament to that was, and I know there's been some debate whether we should be doing more. We always could be doing more on all matter of council business. But if you care to review the council plan that we adopted tonight, and also the budget, there are well over I think 18 mentions of climate, let alone the mentions of sustainability and sustainability framework throughout those documents, probably mentioned more than anything else that we've mentioned in council business. So I think that's a big change for us as we move forward, and I certainly applaud you and all those who have contributed to this.
Councillor Contell, other comments on this one? I'll just close by, look, embedding the idea of accountability is so important, and that's why it's been fantastic to have the strategy and performance team leading this work, and I commend that team for the fabulous work that they've done. There are really some big goals in this list, and the officers were a little bit worried about some of the targets being too hard to reach, but our community did want ambitious targets, and I'm a firm believer, and I think Councillor Maloney is as well, in setting stretch goals. If we aimed for 80% waste to landfill, then that's likely where we would settle. Why not aim for 100%? And then if we make 90%, we understand why that last 10% and what that last 10% is, and we aim to break that down until we get it right. But yes, absolutely in a sustainable way, and your point is taken, Sarah. That would be too ironic if it was self-destructive with unintended consequences. The community emissions target is something that you will see next month, just for reference, if you're looking for it and wondering where it is. That's in the Climate Change Response Plan, which will come to Council for consideration in July, and that's also an exciting and highly ambitious number. And the active and ambitious approach is what our community's asked for, and I believe with the right education and information, the people of City of Greater Geelong can really be the leaders in this area. And that's the theme of the work that we're doing here. We're trying to make sure that the targets are best practice, ambitious, well-informed and based on evidence, noting also that if we don't quite make it in the set time frame, we will explain why and set out how we will continue to improve. That's the premise of corporate sustainability reporting. It's comply or explain. It doesn't insist on absolutes. It's actually about a journey. So it's not about punishment for not meeting targets. It's not about forcing compliance on businesses or creating unnecessary work. It's about finding more efficient or cost-effective ways of doing things that also limit our impacts on people and planet, because people, planet and profit can happily coexist. And these targets are also about understanding that we need to set high goals, and for us as a council to back in our team and our community to reach those goals to make this an even better place to live. And I really hope my fellow councillors agree that these are the right targets to support. So thank you. So we'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Thank you. Carried. Item 7 is the...
Madam Mayor, could I just make a procedural motion? And,
yes, indeed, you may.
That is if I could, in fact, move the notice of motion, which is in section C, up the agenda to be heard now.
Yes, I'm happy to second that.
A couple of members of the Save McAteer Cottage,
yes.
So I do apologise. I should have done that earlier.
A good move. Okay, I'll second that. All those in favour? Those against? Great. Okay. Moving section C, notice of motion, Councillor McAteer's Bluestone Cottage, 375 Barwon Heads Road item to be heard now. Thank you, Councillor Murray.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and everyone should be aware of this. This has received quite a bit of media coverage over the past number of months, I guess, and so the cottage is located 375 Barwon Heads Road on land that is required for the duplication.
An amendment?
Oh, all right, alternate. So we've got
move an amendment.
The alternate.
Yes.
Yeah, which is on the screen now.
Okay. Can we have a seconder for the amendment? Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Okay, over to you, Councillor Murray.
Will I start again?
Procedures.
So we've got the right notice of motion. Okay. So it's required for the duplication of the Barwon Heads Road, and as part of the project, Major Road Projects Victoria is proposing to demolish the cottage. It's understood they will take possession of the property at the end of this month, and I think it is in fact under lease until the end of this month. There is no viable option for the cottage to be retained in its current location, although I did receive an email this afternoon from someone suggesting that the road should just go around the back of the cottage and leave it where it is. The cottage possesses a degree of local historical and architectural values. Historically, the place is an early example of the workers' dwelling in Marshalltown, and the application of the bluestone on such a modest dwelling is of historical interest. There's been considerable interest from the community to identify ways to reserve the cottage, and I do thank the Save McAteer Cottage Action Group for the work they have done and for filling my email inbox very well in the last few days. The range of options that they have in fact suggested was the relocation to JF Field Park across the intersection. So I just want to explain, we haven't actually got the power to do that as councillors. It would take, it'd have to go out for community consultation and survey the residents around. And in fact, I did receive notification from one resident that lives close by that they didn't want the cottage to go onto that park. So there are differing opinions out there. But given the heritage significance, the community interest in providing a solution, it is considered that council should advocate a position to major roads and seek to provide the retention of the cottage, and the CEO to write to Major Roads Project Victoria to seek agreement to appropriately dismantle and store the cottage and consider options that facilitate the cottage to be restored for residential use within the local area, and investigate sustainable options for the cottage to be restored for public purposes in Marshall and Charlemont areas, and report back to council by December 2021. So in actual fact, I've probably got a foot in each camp there. It's sort of it's seeking the CEO to go and do those two things, and hopefully come back with appropriate purpose for the cottage by December of this year. So I want to thank Virginia and Jennifer for their passion in relation to this and the pushing of it. Perhaps the mammoth movers could be used also to investigate or take into consideration with what you raised earlier, Jennifer. So with this, there's nothing off the table and all options are there. Thank you,
Councillor Murray. Councillor Nelson?
I've just got a quick question for Councillor Murray. With your indulgence, Councillor, can we look at changing dot point 1 for residential use for community use? Are you wedded to that word residential as opposed to community?
Oh, second one covers that, Councillor Ron, the public purposes.
Yeah, I see that, but then they're opposite. You know what I mean? Residential use is number 1, and number 2 is investigate options for public purposes.
Yeah, well, that was the comment I made in relation to having a foot in each camp. It doesn't. Nothing's off the table, and we'll see what the report comes back with in December.
Then that potentially someone might be able to buy it. Is that what you're suggesting?
One option, or be used for public purposes.
Okay, has anybody got any comments? Councillor Nelson, did you want to keep talking and use 3 minutes?
It does concern me that it may be available for for private use and be lost forever in someone's backyard at their whim. The intent, my understanding of the intent was for it to be for community use. That was my understanding. That's what the community have told me every time I've been down there. Whereas that doesn't necessarily allow for that, and that concerns me.
There's two options. As I said, there's two options: residential use within the local area, or investigate the options for restored and for public purposes, which what the group would prefer. See what the CEO comes back with in December.
Councillor Maloney.
Marisha, if I could, would the omission of the word residential
that's the word.
Open the options up further so that currently the cottage is in private hands, so I suppose as long as its preservation is maintained, that's potentially an option, but would that open the options for future use as appropriate for all councillors?
Removal of the word residential.
Did you just remove for residential use and just have restored
for use
within the local area?
Yeah.
Which doesn't exclude. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I think it's a bit prescriptive to have.
Yeah. I think that makes everyone happy.
Just take out the word residential.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's what I was saying.
Beautiful.
Just for use.
Thanks, Councillor Murray. Thanks.
Does that meet your intent, Councillor Murray?
Yeah, that's
okay,
fine.
good.
Thanks,
I think
Councillor.
that's a good change. Does anybody else wish to talk on this one? Councillor Grisbeck.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Murray, for bringing this to our attention. And we have all been inundated with lovely emails, so I appreciate the concern from the community, and I think there is a large community group, over I think 760 from what I understand from Angie Smith, that there is many supporters that don't want to see this cottage lost. And I think from what I can understand, according to this information that Councillor Murray has provided, that Major Roads Projects Victoria will demolish the cottage, and it's understood that they'll take possession of the property at the end of June. So whilst it is in private hands at the moment, I'm assuming that that will then revert through to public state government hands. So that should negate the opportunities that it could be sold if this particular, if we write to Major Roads Victoria. I think they'll see this other viable option, which is what I think the community wants. From the words of Angie Smith, who I've seen her email, says that this cottage has huge capacity to bring people together, raise awareness of featuring local rich stories, archives and artefacts, and allowing people to really feel what it was like to be in that era, in the area, which is in Marshall. I will be supporting this amended notice of motion, but just putting a little bit of a question mark over that council probably doesn't have resources at the moment in the budget that we've just approved to be restoring or rebuilding, or there'll be a lot to be done before that can happen. So I think what we've got to realise here is the community, it's not going to happen overnight, but it could happen, and we'll wait to see the report that comes back from the Chief Executive Officer. But I thank all those involved, all the ward councillors, and even all councillors. I think we would have been bombarded with emails, and that just shows the huge community interest in providing a solution for this particular cottage. And I think we look forward to getting that report by December 2021, and hopefully before that we'll have some views from the Major Roads Victoria that they won't do anything with it in the meantime. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck. I think that was a shampoo commercial, wasn't it? It won't happen overnight. It will happen. Now I'll take Councillor Nelson's previous contribution as a question, and you've
Correct.
now got your comment.
Correct. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I thank Councillor Murray for bringing this to Councillors' attention. I've certainly met the ladies in the gallery late September, August last year for the first time down at the Bluestone Cottage, and they showed me their passion and support to keep this Bluestone Cottage as close to the original site as possible, which is why we're trying to get it across the road. But that has to be with community consultation. That's what we do as a council. We consult with our community, so we'll ask them if that's okay. I'm sure that'll be it'll be close to where it is now, and whether it's a tourist information centre or some sort of historical element for the local kids to come down and look at what happened in that area, that remains to be seen. But certainly that's what I'd like to see there. So perhaps we can get some funding from the state and federal governments to facilitate that, and have local volunteers such as yourselves in there to service that facility, to make the impact on council as minimal as we could possibly make it. But if you go on one of the Facebook pages, I think it's historical photographs in Geelong. I remember the old post office that was down actually there, and that's gone now. So to have another historical building there would be really good for people that are heading on down to Barwon Heads and probably didn't know anything about Marshalltown, Grovedale, Germantown. Will be really good for that area. So congratulations on your work, and hopefully we can get this done before December. Thanks.
Councillor Nelson. Councillor Aitken.
I'm showing my age, but I'm pretty excited, as Big Kev used to say in his commercial. And why am I excited? Because I actually think I'm experiencing a road to Damascus moment for the city of Greater Geelong. We voted to sell off the jail. We voted to sell off the post office. I couldn't get unanimous support to retain Osborne House in public ownership. I couldn't get support to unanimous support to actually fund the restoration of Osborne House. I couldn't do that guess what's happening tonight? I'm excited because I think we're on the road to Damascus here tonight, where the United Council is actually saying we care about our heritage, and in fact we're going to do something about our heritage in the city of Greater Geelong. And if that's the case, I am excited because this is a significant change in the strategic focus of this council group. So I'm really pleased that this has been brought before us, and I'm really enjoying watching this road to Damascus that's occurring here tonight.
Thank you, Councillor Aitken. Are there any other comments on the notice of motion? No. Back to Councillor Murray.
Thank you, everyone, for their comments. And I just wanted to share, and I think, Virginia, you might have posted this afternoon, but a little ditty. In 1880, Francis and Catherine McAteer ran from the cottage to the burning racecourse hotel across the road, where the original racecourse used to be, and they pulled some survivors out of that hotel whilst it burnt. So something there for everybody.
Moonshine, Councillor Murray.
And look, the intent was to save it. We're doing it, and leaves all options open. So I thank everyone for their support.
Okay, lovely. We'll put the notice of motion to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. That's the amended one. So well done. Thank you. Now our very patient gallery members can retire for the evening. Thank you. Okay, we're back to item 7, the Clever and Creative 30-Year Vision Refresh draft, to be moved by Councillor Grisbeck and seconded by Councillor Contell. Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'm not sure why the gallery doesn't want to stay for this particular report, but I will. You can look at it on the live stream later on. This is the vision refresh, the 30-year vision refresh, the Clever and Creative document, which we're noting here tonight for the second edition. The reason this has been brought to... So for example, let me start again. The community led the 30-year vision back in August. It was launched in August 2017. So it's not that old. But as part of the new Local Government Act in 2020, all councils must review or develop a community vision in accordance with the deliberative engagement practices and adopt that by the 31st of October. So this is not coming back to us because we don't believe in the vision. This is coming back really as a routine refresh that's required by the Local Government Act, which is the new act that came in last year. In saying that, it is always good to have feedback on the document if things might have changed, or if things have progressed further than we anticipated, or that we need a change and swap. So I'm pleased that this document is going to be out for community consultation for the second edition, which will be open from the 23rd of June to the 13th of July. Personally, I still think that the Clever and Creative Future vision is appropriate. It was delivered by voices of over 16,000 community members. And I think that we need to, the further engagement that was undertaken by the Vision Partner Group and engaged the Geelong Youth Council as part of the process. And I think what we're saying here is that it's open for further consultation until the 13th of July, and we look to have it come back by the 31st of October in line with the Local Government Act rules that were brought in. At this stage, nothing further, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck. Councillor Contell.
Spoken by Councillor Grisbeck. We've spoken about a lot of plans and budgets and visions tonight, being item 7 of 17. I think I'm going to allow this for others to speak to. Previous Councillor Tom O'Connor has obviously given a very good review, and being a 30-year vision, I'm hoping we'll have further opportunities to have input into this document. So I'll leave it to others to speak.
Councillor Contell, would anybody else like to speak to this one? Councillor Mason's prepping. Mask off. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. Yes, I feel quite refreshed myself, having seen the cosmetic changes, and there are quite a lot of cosmetic changes in the way it's presented, and I think they're all improvements, and that's really looking forward. I won't go through it. I did go through it with a fine-tooth comb, actually, and I found quite a lot of minor changes. I did note there was an updated group of consultative partners. I'm not sure. I think we need to audit the very last page. I think there were inconsistencies in the measures of success. There's some items have been targets have been removed or measures, such as the business use of technology, the number of businesses. There's lots of minor little changes, but all in all, I look forward to community input, and I see the whole document generally as in presentation a great improvement, and the refinements also a positive generally.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Anybody else? Councillor Harwood's demasking as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, it is one of those evolving documents that we're going to see over the journeys, but I'd just like to make a comment in relation to waste management, waste disposal. I just think that could have been, well, hopefully that is something that the community look at and further enhancing of this document, because that is one of the big issues that we face today, and it's a constant. And there's many and varied views about what waste management might look like and what we can do with technology. So I just make that comment on what is a very good document, but I just think we're a bit light on in an area that is arguably one of our biggest challenges. Thank you.
Fair point. Thank you, Councillor Harwood. Anyone else? We go back to Councillor Grisbeck to close.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And Councillor Mason, I never doubted that you would have gone through this document with a fine-tooth comb, and I do appreciate your dedication to this 30-year vision. This report states that significant changes won't necessarily be made to the vision right now, and a more substantial community engagement is carried out and it's scheduled for 2023. So to answer the Councillor Contel's question, it will get another review in 2023. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck. We'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 8 is the Council Plan Quarterly Report, March 2021. Again, to be moved by Councillor Grisbeck. You just want to take your mask off tonight, don't you, Councillor Grisbeck? And seconded by Councillor Nelson. Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I think we've said a lot about council plans tonight, and we've just approved the new one going forward. This is our quarterly report from the last council plan from March this year. Covers the period between January and March this year. It notes that there's been several successful progresses out of this report. There's 111 out of 124 initiatives that were set for this financial year, including 10 that have already been completed. So there's successful progress in those 111. Important improvements that were made throughout this last quarter was the Green Organics composting facility, allowing the facility to process an additional 25,000 tonnes of material each year. And as of March, we had 101 of the initiatives were on track. So I'm very pleased that the majority of the initiatives are on track, and we've got some work to do on about 13 or so of those projects that were considered either not to have commenced or to be off track. And I can ensure that the CEO has them under control, and there'd be reasons as to why they haven't progressed. If endorsed, the quarterly report will be available online on our website. And I've probably got nothing else to add, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck. Well said. Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, not much to add there from Councillor Grisbeck, other than the fact that that Green Organics facility is something to behold. And if anyone hasn't been out there, they should get out there and have a look at it, because that's one of the good news stories that Council is doing, and we're making it even bigger. So the more we can process out there, the better. And once we get that, the food organics facility will be even more sustainable as a council group. So not 100 out of 100, but pretty close.
Great, thank you, Councillor Nelson. Any other comments on this one? Back to Councillor Grisbeck.
Nothing further, Madam Mayor.
Okay, put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 9 is the former South Geelong landfill site draft landscape plan, to be moved by Councillor Mansfield and seconded Councillor Murray. Thank you, Councillor Mansfield.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. So this is dealing with an area that has been problematic for local residents for quite an extended period of time. There are a number of industrial operations, including a concrete crushing operation near this area on privately owned land, but this impacts residents particularly along Tucker Street, but also some other areas surrounding this pocket of land. The impacts are not only on the visual amenity, but there's also significant dust and noise issues. The dust issues are really quite a concern. I've heard stories from a number of residents about the amount of dust entering their properties. If they leave, they can't leave windows open on a windy day. So I know that I thank officers. They've engaged with the community down there over a significant period of time, trying to find an answer for this. There is a strip of council-owned land that falls between the residents and this industrial area, and there had been agreed plans to create a steep embankment and vegetate that embankment to create a visual and physical buffer. But further work has identified that there are problems with some of these initial plans from a whole range of, it's just not necessarily feasible to get a lot of the vegetation going on that sort of a site. So this plan sets out some alternative landscaping approaches to achieve the protection and the amenity improvement that is really needed for local residents down there. What we are doing is we're putting this out for community consultation. I know there has been some preliminary engagement with residents around this, but we really want to hear from anyone who lives or works around this area. We want to get your input on this so we get it right. We do recognise it's a problem, and we have an opportunity as a council. Although we're not necessarily creating a lot of the amenity issues, we own some land and can rectify the problem for residents and protect them from those impacts from the nearby industrial activity if we do this well. So please have your say in the next 30 days on this particular plan and help us get you a resolution to some of these issues that you've been very patiently putting up with for a very long period of time.
Thank you, Councillor Mansfield. Councillor Murray.
No, I've got nothing further to add. Councillor Mansfield sums it up pretty well, and nothing further.
Hey, anyone else like to comment on this one? No? Okay, back to Councillor Mansfield.
Nothing further, thank you.
Nothing to add? Okay, great. We'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 10 is the draft public street lighting policy, to be moved by Councillor Aitken and seconded by Councillor Maloney. Thank you, Councillor Aitken.
Thank you very much, Mayor Asher. Look, there's probably not much interest in this particular issue amongst councillors in the community, but there certainly is amongst our developers in the city of Greater Geelong. We've got an existing public street light policy that's now been in place for 13 years. That document was quite prescriptive about what types of street lighting was accepted for new development areas, and we're replacing old street lighting. And this proposed new draft actually has a preferred council position in terms of street lighting, but it also provides the flexibility for two other non-standard street lighting options. And what may cause a bit of conflict with our development community is that the previous policy actually lacked the council's ability to prevent the installation of non-standard decorative street lighting, and the policy is now allowing that to concern. Now, this is actually just going out for consultation for 30 days, so in fact it might significantly change if we do get developer uproar associated with it. This is the preferred position of our engineering and maintenance teams at the City of Greater Geelong in relation to street lighting, but our developers might actually say that you're taking away the uniqueness of our capacity to be able to deliver what is seen as the initial infrastructure in a community, which is the lighting that exists. So I wait with interest what our developers have to say once this goes out for public consultation, and it may significantly change, or it may actually stay as is because the developers are quite happy with essentially the three options that have been presented before them in this policy document. Mayor Asher.
Thank you, Councillor Aitken. Councillor Maloney.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. So with respect to the new draft policy, this is intended to replace the old policy that deals with old technology. And as we can see, the city is moving towards being a smart biophilic city, and this includes energy efficient lighting solutions. We would really appreciate any feedback with concerns to things like lumens, light pollution, lighting around environmental areas, as this is often a concern for the natural environment, but it would be a really great thing for us to hear from you, the community, with respect to this new policy that we have before us. Nothing further, Mayor Asher. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Maloney. Councillor Grisbeck.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I have to disagree with Councillor Aiken that we won't necessarily be happy about this particular policy. I'm one that has been trying to drive this particular policy coming through to council for about 2 or 3 years. I'm really pleased that it's finally here, but I expect that we're going to get some detailed feedback from the developers. These details around, I know that it sounds mundane, but public street lighting, this is what sets developers aside from others. These are the things that developers will use to set themselves aside from other developments. This is why communities are built. This is how developers really ensure that people come and purchase their land over other land. So this is their bread and butter. I don't necessarily think we've got anywhere near enough options or anywhere near the placement and the options here about how we will replace lights. I don't think we've gone far enough. I don't agree with some of the statements in the document around replacing a non-standard street light with council reserves its right to replace it with a standard light that will be maintained by the distributor. I think that is going to cause some ugly streets, to be honest. You've got 5 normal standard lights that the developers put in, and then you're going to put if one gets hit or knocked over or needs replacing, you're going to put an odd galvanised one, for example, that sits in. I just don't think it's worth. I don't like the policy. I don't think it's going to really be accepted. I think we need to really have a good look at this and say, why don't we have a fund in which developers can contribute to, that therefore council can access when replacement of a light pole needs to be replaced? The developers are open to this. They're open to, they will pay for these particular differences in their developments across their communities. And I'm looking forward to hearing all of the feedback, and I am probably putting on the record right now that I think that there are some changes that I would like to make this coming back to council in the future. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck. Any other comments? Back to Councillor Aitken to close.
Nothing further, Mayor Asher.
Okay, we'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Okay, Councillor Harwood's going to vacate for a moment. Thank you. This is item 11T210048, Sports Lighting Program, to be moved by Councillor Nelson and seconded by Councillor Grisbeck. Councillor Nelson.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. This is just an item on the agenda just to award the contractor for Power Street Electrics to 8 sports lighting programs throughout the municipality, 3 of which are in Councillor Maloney's and my ward, in Buda Reserve in Grovedale, Queen's Park at Amos in Highton, and Winter Reserve in Belmont. And this is brought about because of the massive influx in women's participation in sports. So hopefully we'll be able to see a game on a Saturday night or a Friday night. We'll go down and we'll see the the men play first and then the women, or the women play first and then the men. Either way, I couldn't be more happier than to have these games being played at night. It allows them to train as well, but more so because we're limited as to the amount of infrastructure we have with ovals, to have these facilities with lighting so they can be used day and night. It's just going to be a game changer, pardon the pun, for all sports in Geelong.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Councillor Grisbeck.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Nelson. I agree with you. One thing I don't necessarily agree is not necessarily driven by the extra participation, because I think these lights were always needing replacement anyway. For a winter sport, for lights to be optional, in my view, Madam Mayor, is not an option. They are required for a winter sport, and there are many, many sports that are conducted across all of those 8 reserves, which just shows you the plethora of winter sports across Geelong. I think this particular tender, Power Street Electrics, has come to the top of the chart in terms of all of the, based on all of their expertise, experience and value for money. But there was some close tenderers close behind, and I'd like to acknowledge all of those that put in effort for this particular tender. The reason this is coming through to council, it is just sitting over the CEO's delegation. So thank you, Mr. CEO, for bringing it through to us, but this is something we need to get on with and do it quick. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck. Anybody else like to comment? Councillor Murray.
Wonder, Madam Mayor, that back in the day when I used to play, there'd be one light pole and there'd be one light, and you'd train in front of that pole, and of course the grass would be quickly worn out. How things have changed. I do have some comments to make in relation to the. It's great, the lighting program, but I just wonder about the expectations of these clubs, whether they're high expectations and that they think they're going to be able to play games under these lights. I tried to look at the contract or what lux these lights will be, but there's nothing in there that says what lux the bulbs will be. So I'm fingers crossed that they are powerful enough to be able to hold matches, because it's a different lux. Obviously you can train under some lights, but you can't play. So they've got to be powerful enough to be able to play under these lights. There's such diverse different versions of the lights of sporting grounds, and there's also the question of maintenance on them, whose responsibility it is if one bulb goes, or if it's twisted and needs adjustment, whose responsibility is it? But look, this is great, as what has been said. It opens the opportunity for hopefully more games at night right across the Geelong region.
Thanks, Councillor Murray. Any other comments on this one? Councillor Maloney.
Thanks. I just wanted to comment that, as Councillor Nelson alluded, the increased participation of women in sport has potentially increased the need for this sport lighting due to the games and the timetabling of said games. But I also wanted to highlight that this is offers an improvement to safety, not only for the players, but women and children that support or play themselves. And I think living in a patriarchy where women often don't feel safe to travel at night, to be somewhere at night, I think it's such a wonderful thing that not only we're participating in sport, but we're also able to feel safe from this lighting. And I really support any future master plans that potentially will illuminate the things that we want to do with sports. Thank you.
Right, thanks, Councillor Maloney. Any other comments on this one? Back to Councillor Nelson to close.
Madam Mayor, did Councillor Maloney just say illuminate? Okay. Oh, sorry, I was trying to find the in the report the actual lux. I think it's 150, but even that's probably not as good as it should be. And there are other grounds in Geelong that are higher than that. I think St Mary's is 200, isn't it? I think from memory. So probably not gold standard, but certainly a better standard than what we have now. So it's a great step forward, but we've certainly got a long way to come. But I can't wait to go down to my local club and watch both men and women play on the one day. It'll be great. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor Nelson. We'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. We'll just get Councillor Harwood back in. At least because he's moving the next item, I believe. Back, Councillor Harwood. Item 12 is the Burnham Court Belmont intention to declare street scheme construction special charge scheme 365, to be moved by Councillor Harwood and seconded by Councillor Maloney. Thank you, Councillor Harwood.
Madam Mayor, I'll just this is Burnham Court.
Yes, correct.
Yes. This is a small court up in the Belmont area that is a unsealed road. The residents there are seeking for the road to be sealed. There's unanimous support for that. There's a considerable contribution from the city towards those works, and we're hoping that those works will be completed sooner than later. Thank you.
Sweet. Thank you, Councillor Harwood. Councillor Maloney.
Asher. I've driven past this on my bike, and it's kind of weird to see an unsealed road amongst so much built-up area. But the road, if it's sealed, will improve not only road safety for the local constituents, including myself, but the limited impact of dust arising from that. So nothing further, Mayor Asher. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to comment on this one? Leave it to the local experts. Thanks, Councillor Harwood.
Madam Mayor, we do acknowledge there are one or two residents who weren't in favour, but we're going with the majority, and we think overall it will be a good result when completed. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 13 is revocation of flood-prone area designation of new lots at Anchorage, Stage 10 and Stage 11, to be moved by Councillor Maloney and seconded by Councillor Nelson. Thank you, Councillor Maloney.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. I'll be quick. The works that are proposed have resulted in lots being protected from flooding, which often could be a one in a 100-year major storm event. We've seen quite the increase in those due to climate change. So the report recommends to revoke the flood-prone area in this designation in Armstrong Creek. Nothing further.
Thank you. Councillor Nelson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. No, just a good result for the people down in Avonbury Drive and Buchanan Boulevard. Means their insurance will be a lot cheaper, and they won't have to worry about it when it rains hard, as Councillor Maloney said, with more frequency. Thanks.
Councillor Nelson. Anyone else like to comment on this one? Back to Councillor Maloney.
Thank you, Further, Mayor Asher.
Thank you. Okay, we'll put this item to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 14 is the proposed road discontinuance and sale abutting 58 Wallington Road, Ocean Grove, to be moved by Councillor Mason, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sullivan. Thank you, Councillor Mason.
Sure. This is to seek council approval to initiate the statutory and ongoing public exhibition process for the proposed discontinuance of sale of approximately 36 square metres of road reserve abutting Wallington Road, Ocean Grove. The owner of 56 and 58, the single owner of 56 and 58 Wallington Road, wants to purchase this 36 square metres of land between both properties to formalise an outdoor eating area. This was part of the shoulder of Wallington Road, is now unused and is not on the municipal road register. All stakeholders have been contacted and there are no objections. So this proposal must further be exhibited before it comes back to council for a final decision. Mayor Asher.
Thank you, Councillor Mason. Deputy Mayor Sullivan.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. I endorse all the words of Councillor Mason there. It's actually quite an odd little area of reserve. When you look on the maps, it's quite surprising that that's still there, but it's currently being utilised, and this will just secure its utilisation for the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to comment on this one? Back to you, Councillor Mason.
Nothing further to add, Mayor Asher.
Okay, we'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Item 15 is the Councillor Allowances Determination, to be moved by Councillor Grisbeck and seconded by Deputy Mayor Sullivan. Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I know that we don't want to hear my voice all night, but this is a really important topic that I needed to really make clear to the community what we're doing here. This councillor allowance determination, again, needed to be brought back before council as a result of the Local Government Act 2020. This is another one of those particular items that need to be brought back through the chamber to allow council to operate in this manner. This determination really says that councillor allowances will be staying the same as they were established in 2019. We are not seeking an increase. We determined at the 23rd of March council meeting this year that we would resolve to provide the public notice that we will continue to set the allowances at the rates that we have had them since 2019. The public submission process was conducted, and we obviously advertised these in the local papers. And I just want to be really clear that people started to not really understand the process that we're at. We are not seeking an increase on our allowances. I don't know how to make that more clearer. There were no submissions received, and there's no requirement for a submissions review panel. So I will probably leave it there, Madam Mayor, before I get a little testy.
Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck. You can reiterate when you're closing, just in case we didn't get it. Thank you. Deputy Mayor Sullivan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Grisbeck has said it all quite well. There is definitely no pay increase here. Many of my fellow councillors work hard and long representing the community, but we don't do it for the financial remuneration. We do it for the love of the job and for the love of our city. As Councillor Grisbeck said, this is still at the same level as 2019, so there's definitely no increases. But it's also a commitment to Council's resolution last year for a pay freeze, allowance freeze, so to speak. We are in difficult economic times. Our community is finding itself with tremendous hurdles ahead of them, and this freeze that we implemented shows our commitment to the community as well, that we're in there with them. With that, I'll support the motion. Thank you.
Any other comments on this one? Councillor Aitken.
Thank you much, Mayor. So, yeah, look, I'd just emphasise the point again that council allowances in the City of Greater Geelong have been frozen since 2019. And I also want to remind the council group, and especially Councillor Maloney, who's probably not aware of it, but our senior management team has actually had a wage freeze that for the last 12 months as well too. And that I want to thank our CEO and our senior management team for actually doing that. And I think we do need to acknowledge that again after that decision was actually made. So for the commentary that the council and the senior leadership team are not respective of the environment which we've been operating in is not true. In fact, I don't believe it, and the CEO may correct me, I'm not aware of any other council that actually, the senior management team and the executive leadership team that actually had a wage freeze during the current financial year. I'm not aware of that. And I'm really proud that both the council group and the senior management team both reflected the fact that we were looking at a $20 million deficit, and they made that commitment to the community and also to the financial position of the organisation.
Thank you, Councillor Aitken. Councillor Contell.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I also wanted to reiterate that because I think it's really important, because reading some of the media coverage on this today was actually quite misleading. In fact, I haven't been on a council since 2010, other than this council, these people that are here today, and Councillor Pat, who was with us previously, where we haven't taken a pay increase. This is the first council that I've been on now. Councillor Harwood may have experienced it prior to me, but I certainly haven't in the last 11 years. So I think that does show a restraint and being in tune with the environment that we're all in, and we understand that everyone is doing it tough, and we're trying to demonstrate that care as well by once again declining to take an increase and keeping the allowance as it was set in 2019.
Councillor Contell, Councillor Mansfield.
Thank you, Mayor Asher. Probably not to put too much of a dampener on the conversation, but I guess the one point to note is that we haven't been offered an increase since 2019 either. As Councillor Grisbeck pointed out, this is really a requirement under the Act that we go through this process, we review our allowances. But one thing I would say is that having done a bit of work in the previous council with Women in Community Life, the committee, and looking at barriers for, in particular, women to put up their hand to run for council, one of the factors that does come up is the remuneration. It's a significant time investment for people, and not everyone has other financial means to draw on to support them to give that time to council. So I actually think it's important that we recognise the work that goes into it, and that perhaps there is a barrier for getting a broader diversity of representation on councils, because quite simply it people couldn't necessarily afford, if you're, say, a single parent that's trying to work full time and support a family, you'd have to give up some of that work to do the job of a councillor properly, and that compensation might not adequately cover the extra childcare costs and other things that you might be relying on, and that's something that's been brought up to me by people. So I think it's easy for councillors to cop it, and but when you look at that allowance for the time that's put in, for some that might seem very reasonable, but for others it would be, it's actually a barrier for them to even think about putting up their hand. So I just add that balance there to the conversation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Councillor Harwood and Councillor Maloney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the risk of being on a hiding to nothing talking about this topic, quite simply, it probably is a labour of love. Before you run for election what some of the issues are that you'll face, and one is, it's not a position where you are heavily remunerated for your work, but that's that before you put your hand up for the role. So, we don't control what we're paid, the allowance. It's it's a state government policy how they work that out. But at the end of the day, I think the reward is what we get done. And nights like tonight, there's so much work that's been done. We've gone through budgets and city plans, and I think when you sit back and reflect on that, I think that's when you think, well, that's why we come along. We don't come along for the criticism, but that goes with the territory. And you know that before you join council as well, or if you put your hand up. So it's a bit of a buyer beware sometimes, but the allowance is the allowance, and it is what it is. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Howard. Councillor Maloney.
I just wanted to highlight that this. The allowance that we receive as councillors is indicated on the knowyourcouncil.vic.gov.au website, and it is a Category 3. It's the highest of the range, but it is also stipulated on this website all the details about what your council allowance information is. All the info is there. So for constituents who are wondering and wanting to pry into what the stipulations are, I highly recommend that website, because for anyone who's wanting to put in a submission, or perhaps people who are in the media trying to figure out how we come to this figure, it's really important to use this website. So thanks so much.
Councillor Maloney. Councillor Nelson.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to go on further on what Councillor Mansfield was alluding to. It's probably, councillors probably get paid around $15 an hour, so we're certainly not here for the money. We're here, and I can say this about all my fellow councillors, we're here because we want to make a difference to where we live and our community. We get beaten around, as Councillor Harwood says. We do, but we do it for $15 an hour. So to say that we're here for the money is just the wrong thing to say. Yet our current state government have got a pay rise of up to 11.8%. Yet you don't read that in the paper. So perhaps they should write about that instead of about us.
Thanks, Councillor Nelson. Any other comments on this one? Back to Councillor Grisbeck to close. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I do look forward to an article in the Geelong Addy by Harrison retracting what he has said yesterday. Look, I think what we're saying is that the remuneration is set by the state government. It's in legislation. We don't necessarily choose what we get paid. I'd love to be on the Gold Coast right now as a councillor. They get over $100,000 a year and it is a full-time gig. I think we do it for the love, Councillor Nelson. We really do. And there are many times that we are taken away from our family, which is our choice to put ourselves up for election. But we take ourselves away to have our dedication to our community. And I speak on behalf of all the councillors when I say we are devoted to this role. That's why we put our hand up and we get what we're given, and we don't use that as the leverage as to why we do this job. You don't do it for the money. So I look forward to an article saying that because we are probably the second biggest council, it's probably why we've got the second biggest salaries. And he's probably in the room, but I didn't see. But I look forward to that article coming out, noting that we are doing hard work for minimum pay. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Join the union.
Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck. Okay, we'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Okay, romping through now. Item 16 is the Audit and Risk Committee Charter Amendment, to be moved by Councillor Grisbeck and seconded by Councillor Aitken. Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I should have just left the mask off. This is obviously an update to the Charter. It's really instrumental that we review the Charter going forward, every year to make sure we've got it right. There's probably not much more to say, but with the local government now largely enforcing the requirement for independent members, we've got a requirement now to submit personal interest forms that no longer exist, so that's why there's some changes there in the Charter. I don't think there's anything else to note on that one, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Grisbeck. Councillor Aitken, your turn.
Look, I'm seconding the motion, but I'm actually speaking against it. I'm actually a little disappointed with the Audit and Risk Committee on this one because they were quite happy to give personal interest returns when it was in the legislation, and now it's not in the legislation. They're saying, well, let's change the Charter so we don't have to do it. What about the principle of good governance and actually saying, well, we hold ourselves in the highest regard that we still put the personal interest returns in because that's actually the standard we would like. So if the legislation's made it easier and they've gone for an easier option, I'm actually going to vote against it because I would actually like to think our Audit and Risk Committee would put themselves at a higher standard. If they agree with the principle of actually having their personal interests on a register, they could still do that. And I would have liked to have thought I wasn't privy to any debate they had, but I would have liked that they would have actually considered that instead of just saying that it's a legislative change and the officers have put it before us and we're happy to accept that because it's going to make life easier that we don't have to do it every 6 months.
Thank you, Councillor Aitken. Anybody else got a comment on this one? I think you're an island here. Councillor Grisbeck.
Where do I start? Look, let me just be clear, and I'll probably throw to our Director of Governance here, Manager of Governance, Sarah McHugh, just to confirm it's not a choice by which Audit and Risk Committee have made. Is that right?
Oh, sorry.
That's correct, Councillor Grisbeck. It's now been legislated that it's no longer a requirement. So that's been the decision to amend, that's influenced the decision to amend the Charter to reflect that legislative requirement.
Okay, so thank you very much, Sarah. Look, I think that we will take that view, Councillor Aiken, back to the Audit and Risk Committee, and I'm sure that they'd be more than happy to discuss that. I think what we're saying here is that the Audit and Risk Committee charter, also there are changes in relation to the chair now meeting with councillors twice a year. And I think the last meeting that we had was very fruitful, and it was great to get the audit chair's view on things to councillors. And as I've said many, many times, I would encourage all councillors to come to the Audit and Risk Committee. Councillor Mason most times attends, as well as the Mayor. So I would encourage everybody to come. It's exactly what it's there for. You'll find out some amazing things that go on in the organisation through the Audit and Risk Committee.
It's made that sound exciting then, Councillor Grisbeck.
Very
well
exciting, Madam Mayor.
Okay, we'll put this one to the vote. All those in favour? Those against? Thank you. Carried. Item 17 is the Audit and Risk Committee's summary report and strategic internal audit plan to go into confidential. Can I please have a mover, Councillor Grisbeck, and a seconder, Councillor Mason, to go into confidential? All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. Then we go into section D, which is the record of informal meetings of councillors. And may I have a mover and seconder? Mover, Deputy Mayor Sullivan, for the record of informal meetings of councillors, seconded by Councillor Murray. Thank you. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Section E is planning delegations. May I have a mover and seconder for planning delegations? Councillor Harwood to move, Councillor Grisbeck to second. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you. And may I have a mover and seconder to close the meeting to the public so we can consider the confidential items in today's agenda, to be moved by Councillor Mason, seconded by Deputy Mayor Sullivan. Thank you. All those in favour? Those against? Carried.